that is a second degree felony, you're facing 2 to 20. It does qualify for probation. So I just wanted y'all to understand those different levels. And then I'm sure as Courtney goes through exactly what happened, she will talk about the various lesser includeds that were included as it relates to the charging instrument. If she wasn't planning on doing it, she is now. So I'll turn it over to Courtney real quick, just so you can recap the specifics of like what took place in this case.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney of Couture. As I say on my videos, I'm a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer. I've been practicing for 16 years in the state of Texas. I used to think I wanted to do murder trials. I would sit in, I would watch murder trials. I shadow countless criminal attorneys. I've helped pick juries. I now work in a civil context because my cousin was tragically murdered, and it was a capital murder case. She was murdered. Her unborn baby was murdered. Her fiance was murdered. It was a triple homicide. I decided that I likely would be biased if I ever did murder trials, so I decided not to do it. I always lead with that when I talk about this case because I need for people to understand I already came to this case with an ability to see both sides. What you all need to know is in terms of the prosecutor that prosecuted this case, it came up. There have been a lot of things that have come up about potentially the judge knowing the Metcalf family. The pictures that you all saw online weren't true. What is true is that Bill Werski did get in trouble, and Collin County DA's office was sued because 6 women said that they were sexually harassed, and there was a massive $1.75 million settlement with the Collin County DA's office. That was the same prosecutor that did the opening statements and the closing statements in this case. That's the same prosecutor that you are still seeing on TV that everybody is talking about. He apparently did such a great job relating to the jury. That's the first thing that you need to know. In terms of jury selection, almost about 600 people were called. 589 people were called for jury selection. Those people came in, those people filled out questionnaires, and then they were told that they would be sent a text message to let them know if they would come back for the more intensive questionnaire portion, the in-person question portion of jury selection. Then the jury was selected. The jury was selected, and what we know is the following. We were told there were no Black jurors. Now, what we have heard is that some of the Black jurors were eliminated because they said they could not send Carmelo Anthony to jail. We were not there, so nobody really knows what happened. But in terms of the demographics of the jury, we know that there were 3 Asian women, 1 Middle Eastern woman, 1 woman of color, and everybody else on the jury was a white male. That is including alternates, at least from what I have heard. Once the jury was seated, we know that prosecution and the defense, they decided to do their opening and closings. It is the contention of the prosecution, and it was the entire time, that this was always a murder case. They never felt like self-defense should be on the table. The prosecutor doubled down on it. He said, this is not a murder case. This is not a case of self-defense. This is a purely murder case. It was the contention of the defense that Carmelo Anthony was responding to someone who was a lot bigger than him. Carmelo Anthony at the time this occurred was around 5'8", 130 pounds. Austin Metcalf was 6'1", 215 pounds. That's a complete difference in size. We also know now that yes, Carmelo Anthony may have had a tool in his backpack that no, he shouldn't have brought it to a track meet, but it was there. It had a 3.5-inch blade, but also in that backpack, he had snacks. He had school puzzles, and he had a cross. That's not the kit of somebody who is thinking that day that he is going to murder someone. And what Congresswoman Crockett said so eloquently at the beginning about humanizing someone, that is so important. In particular, it's important for Black men because statistically, we know that in cases like this, Black men are more likely to be given harsher sentences than people who are white. That is just pure statistics. They are likely to be given more harsher sentences even when they are not guilty. And we could go on and on about that. As the trial went on, the majority of the people that were witnesses were students. That is likely why you all didn't get to see this on TV. You didn't get to hear the audio. They were students. And also, I think the judge wanted to really control the outside narrative surrounding this case. There were not many experts in this case. The only expert was the expert who enhanced the video that really wasn't that great of video, because the video didn't even show what happened under the tent where the stabbing occurred. That was the only expert that there was.
Wait, let me interject real quick. There should have been whatever the state should have had
The
an expert
medical
like relate to
examiner
the autopsy.
The medical examiner came.
Okay, all right,
Yes.
cool.
They
I
had
just
a
don't want
medical
them to be like,
examiner.
y'all lying.
You
Because
did
I
have
know
a medical
somebody
examiner.
got to prove that the person was deceased and how they
The
died.
medical
I mean,
examiner
it's-
came, and the prosecution brought forth the medical examiner, but that was it. Everybody else was a student
Let me
besides the expert who did the video, the medical examiner. Everybody was a student or a coach.
So let me interject really quickly on the self-defense piece because you brought it up. And I know that that's like where everybody is like feeling away, right? And understanding self-defense and what that means in the legal context. So I went through the forms of homicide, self-defense. All right. So in law school, we learned this thing called the reasonable person standard.
Correct.
And so when you get an instruction on self-defense, it is never what you would have necessarily done. It is what would the reasonable person in those shoes, what would they have done? Okay. So let's say I am 6'5", 300 pounds, and somebody who is $120 and 5 feet steps to me. What may be reasonable for me at 300 pounds and over 6 feet may be absolutely unreasonable if we start flipping around sizing and things like that. So I want y'all to understand that the law specifically is not about what you would have done. It is about what the reasonable person in their shoes would have done, which is why Courtney was laying out the size of Carmelo versus the size of the decedent, because those are the things that they are supposed to think about. And, you know, it potentially would have been, as she's talking about the experts, you know, I don't know if there was money to get an expert or if there was one that would be helpful, because sometimes you will consult with an expert and they are not going to be helpful. And so you're not going to spend that coin, right? So who knows what happened?
We don't know because the judge didn't even allow you to see on the docket, because trust me, I looked. You couldn't even see on the docket where any of that was requested. The judge restricted all of that.
Yeah, so we don't know. And let me be clear. There are times that I've been, even as a court-appointed attorney, given an expert because I'm like, okay, I need this expert, blah, 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 blah. And they turn in all of their paperwork, they do all the things, and they give me the expert. And then the state may object to the testimony of the expert, and the judge say, we're not going to allow this particular expert to testify on these particular findings. So who knows? There's a lot to be there. We don't know. Okay, so we're not going to jump to any conclusions, but there are experts that can really give you an idea as relates to like size and things like that and whatever. And sometimes, you know, you're very limited in bringing in previous information. Like when something happens, it's really supposed to be about what all happened in that moment, not like your whole life and that kind of stuff. Under certain circumstances, and it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Courtney, they didn't know each other. Like the deceased, so they didn't know each other. So getting into the history of like their relationship, there wasn't one, right? So there wasn't anything to talk about, like if for some reason the decedent had historically threatened him or something like that or whatever. And even then, it gets somewhat difficult depending on the circumstances to get that information in so that a jury can fully understand. And the reason I bring this up again is because self-defense is about what would have been reasonable for somebody similarly situated. So the information that they have about somebody, like if for some reason that was the first time he met him, but let's say the boys, him and his brother had a reputation and he was aware of that, then that's the kind of information I would have been fighting to get in, right? Like if like, for instance, he was aware that they were bullies or whatever, that they love to like try to beat people up or whatever, that information gives you more information about why it may have been reasonable for someone to be in fear. Now, the last part that I'll add on this is like there are people that argued about the escalation, okay? Because self-defense is, you know, I want to say eye for eye. It's the easiest way for me to do it as I'm trying to basically like, you know, explain it very simply to y'all or whatever. That's basically what it is, right? Like you punch me, I punch you back. You cuss me, I cuss you back. You slap me, I slap you back. You shoot at me, I shoot you back. Like, so that's a very simplistic way, but obviously we have different levels of force, which is why us most of the time as Black people feel away. Because like Black people just be walking down the street and they be like, but I feared for my life. And you are a whole trained officer and you were scared. You were scared as a whole fully trained licensed officer, and somehow you get to use deadly force. And people are like, that's cool, because you know, you just should have just been quiet. You should have just stayed still. You should have just gave them your license. Like they come up with every excuse, right? So I do want to say that while the simplistic way of describing this is kind of eye for eye, it's still a little bit of gray area. Because again, me as a 5'3" woman, if a 300-pound man is beating me like on top of me and beating me down, I'm not limited to fist. Because I'm telling you right now, if you are twice my weight and got way more strength than me, and you got me pinned down, I don't believe I'm gonna survive. And when you look at even like George Floyd died and they never took out a quote unquote weapon, right? So this idea that you can't die is wild, right? And, you know, I would argue that even the only time we go into things like people's hands being considered deadly weapons is typically like if they're a professional boxer or that kind of stuff. But I think by the time you start getting to like football player, good argument. Good freaking argument. We're not talking about like the golfers. We're talking about football players, right? Like this is what they are trained to do, is to inflict like serious physical contact. And it's my understanding that the decedent was that. So I just wanted to like get some of that out because I know that there's been a lot of questions around that. Courtney, I am sorry, but I wanted to make sure
I think that was good. I think people needed to hear that. I think in terms of the testimony, a lot of people have been wondering a lot of things. I think probably one of the biggest questions is people wondered, why did the brother not testify? When I was doing lives, that's probably the question that I was asked over and over and over again. And I think his twin brother testifying was a risk and a liability for the prosecution and for the defense. I think July said it so well when we were on live, and July said, you don't ask questions that you do not know the answers to. And we do not know how, you know, Hunter was going to respond on the stand. We know that Hunter got into the media very early on, and Hunter said, I turned away. I actually did not see what happened. And then I ended up turning around, and then he says his brother dies in his arms. You know, so that is what we know. You know, nobody seemed to ask, why didn't the prosecution call Hunter? Now, what I could think of is victim advocates do come into play when you have a case like this. And the victim advocates could have talked with the Metcalf family and said, there's no way that Hunter's testifying. We don't want to put him through that trauma. So that's another possibility as well. He doesn't have to testify. A lot of people asked why Carmelo didn't testify. Carmelo didn't need to testify. And one of the things that I have repeatedly said is what we know about Carmelo is the following. And I'm going to just preface it with this. You may not like the way I'm going to say this, but it is just the truth. Based on the evidence, when Carmelo got scared or when he was afraid, because I do believe he was scared and afraid because he's a young boy, he talked. The first thing he did is when he went to his coach, Carmelo started talking and he said, I did it, but he put his hands on me. When the police came, Carmelo did exactly the same thing. He kept confessing. He kept talking, even after being given his right to remain silent. He didn't take that right, which is a lesson for everybody. He didn't take that. And he kept talking. He kept talking. He even said, couldn't it be considered self-defense? And the jury took that, and I could see a jury saying, why was he already wondering how he could get off for this crime if he was so guilty? However, if you have a lawyer that can really describe and humanize Carmelo, the way I saw it was, this is an honest kid. He never said, I didn't do it. He
Yep.
always led with, I did it, but this
Yep.
was why I did it. I don't know if that's how it was described to the jury. That's how I would describe it to a jury, because I think he was honest. And I
I
think
will
he was mischaracterized. I do.
I'll say on the brother situation, um I wouldn't have called him as a defense attorney. If I was the prosecutor, for sure they most likely sat up, looked at his statements. They also evaluated, does he add anything, do we need him to prove his case or not? If if I felt like I couldn't prove my case, I would add him, because he would have given the emotional context that like nobody else could have given in a way that he would have. And if I'm trying to distract the jury from the lack of evidence that I believe I have, then I do that. As a defense attorney, I don't, because if I'm calling him as a hostile witness. And so I'm ready to handle him. And you have to be very like, you don't want anything that you do to a witness to then reflect poorly upon your client. And so that's why child witnesses are always difficult. They are the most difficult, right? Because you look like a villain as a grown person crossing them hard. So y'all have seen me in committee. Y'all see how I can go for the jugular on some people. Like when it comes, like there's this balance that you have to walk. And unfortunately, the state leaned in on a lot of kids. And that makes it more difficult for you to actually cross examine, because you don't want people to hate you if you just come at them, versus if it was like a trail of adults. You can handle them whatever way you want to. So there's a lot of stylistic and strategic things that lawyers go through, but I definitely wouldn't have called him unless he had something that was really, really damning in one of the statements that he had given to law enforcement. That is the only reason I would have called him. And you would have had to play it super nice. You would have had to let him take the stand. You would have had to say, I am so sorry for your loss. You would have to do all of that. And then basically you would have to stick to that little box of the thing that you want to get. And no matter where he wanted to go, you have your documentation ready and you are ready. So yeah, so I want to skip over though to some of our non-lawyers. And I think Morgan, you've been really following this. Jace Ruvo, I don't know if you have been following super closely too. I know you have been following this. And Angel, you follow all things in all places. But if there's one of y'all that kind of want to jump in, and I'm gonna look at some of these questions for the other four of y'all that are sitting here, so that we can start answering some questions for the people that are watching.
If I could say one, thank you for having us. I know we're talking a lot about like what's happening now, but my heart truly breaks for what this young boy, because he is a boy, where he's going to go in the future. As someone that was incarcerated as a youth in Texas, 85% of emerging adults that go into the Texas prison system under the age of 18 are sexually assaulted. The protections just aren't there. There's no mental health support. There's no education resources. I've also worked in a prison. Um, and I just want to highlight that he and his family need to be continued to be covered in prayer. I'm really worried about his safety and the state of his mental health, quite frankly, um, moving forward. I don't know what else to say there. It just, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, and it's interesting that you would bring it up, because again, it goes to the humanity. Um, and I don't think that there's a lot of humanity in many of the courtrooms. but definitely in the criminal justice incarceral system. And you're absolutely right. So for those of you that are curious, we have federal laws that help a little, but not in a Carmelo situation. Um, Texas is only one of 5 states that considers you an adult only for criminal justice purposes at the age of 17. So every other state is 18. In Texas, you get charged just like anybody else. There's no certification required. You are an adult only for criminal justice purposes at the age of 17. And so it puts us in this weird space because federal law is 18 and everything else is 18. So we have like a PREA. We call it PREA. And basically, if you are less than 18, then you are at least kept kind of like separately in a protected-ish situation. But once you hit 18, mm-mm. And for those of you that are unaware, the jury did sentence Carmelo, and I know some of you may be confused by that too. And I didn't address that. I'll quickly try to go through what a bifurcated trial is, unless somebody else wants to talk about what it is to have bifurcation. Because some people are used to, like, depending on where you're watching this case from, you're used to a judge handing down a sentence. And in Texas, it's not necessarily that way. But Carmelo was given 35 years. And so with him being given 35 years, that means, again, the 50% mark. So he will be parole eligible in 17 years. And I just want to be clear that, you know, I first started running for legislative office because of how fucked up all this is. Like these were my motivations, because I was seeing it every single day in the courtroom. And so I instantly was going in and rewriting all the things that I felt like were terrible. You're right. Basically, they say this is about rehabilitation. And frankly, what I have found is for somebody like Carmelo, someone who didn't have a propensity to be a quote unquote criminal, right? He didn't have a juvie record. This isn't the kid that you imagine is about to have a murder conviction on his rap sheet. And frankly, I have seen more times than one kids that were, in my opinion, mostly from East Texas, over prosecuted and given these crazy sentences. And while they went in and did not deserve what they got as it relates to their sentences, they came out criminals. I mean, I specifically remember a kid who learned how to cook meth while in prison. Like, next thing you know, that's what I mean, this is a story that I tell all the time. I never tell that side of the story, but the kid went in for burglary of a building for stealing candy out of the concession stand at his high school. Like, he was doing stupid kid stuff. And in Dallas County, easily would have been gone after some community service and some other stuff. But in Texarkana, he ended up with 2 years, the maximum, after a probation revocation. So yeah, I just want y'all to understand that, like, rehabilitation is not really what happens a lot of times in our prison systems, at least in Texas and in Arkansas, licensed in both. Morgan, you look to be in deep thought. I'm gonna pull up a question, but I know you have thoughts.
That would be an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're talking about rehabilitation, I think a lot about like Norway and their prison system. I don't know how familiar people are with their system, but they very much focus on rehabilitation, and their recidivism rate is extremely low because of it. And it breaks my heart to see what is possible and know how it looks in this country. So there's that. But the other thing that's very heavy on my mind right now, that's hard to sit with, is how dehumanizing all of this is, and just the level of it, not only in the case itself, but also in the conversation around it, and the way that people are discussing everything about him as a child, because he is a child, was a child when this happened. And today, I mentioned this earlier, but today there was a reporter that made a comment while she was reporting on the case outside the courthouse, and she mentioned that as she was discussing the racial tension around this race, I mean this case, that we needed to address a big gorilla in the room. And I don't know about y'all, but I have not heard gorilla used in that kind of phrase before. The elephant is the thing I've heard, traditionally speaking. And I've watched, I mean, I'm in Dallas, like this is something I care quite a bit about. And as I was watching this coverage, it was very hard to hear how even just one reporter was talking about this from a racial context. So it's just hard to see how constantly Black people are spoken to and talked about in a way that quite literally removes our humanity. And the reason why that language is getting to me is because it results in things like his conviction, in the way that this trial went, in the ways that we're killed just for existing. Like there's very real impact by talking about us like this. So the biggest thing on my mind right now is the way that his innocence is taken away, the way that, like, you know, to Angel's point, when you go into the system, that's that's a traumatizing experience. Anybody that's been through it can tell you, like, it is not something, like you said, it's not rehabilitative at all. So i'm I'm just very sad.
Namaskar. Welcome to the
reason for the strategy, but I don't understand. And again, I'm going to base it on my experience, and maybe there are other reasonings why you shouldn't have someone get on the stand for self-defense. But how do you explain how your client, what we say in closing and opening is not to be considered by the jury? It's not evidence. We just kind of weave it all together for you and put it together in a way and tell the story in a way based on the evidence that was presented, that was admitted. But how do you even really argue self-defense if you don't even have the person that's saying I was scared and I feared for my life? And Lois said, rest in peace to the young man who died, and blessing his family. Also, the whole thing is so beyond fair legal representation that speaks to racism towards Carmelo Anthony. Blessings to him and his family. Yeah, it's tough because it's a life too, and we don't want to minimize that it was a young man that was killed. So his family doesn't care what the circumstances were. They feel like somebody should be punished for the death of their kid, which most parents would think. Collin County is mostly affluent area, not saying would have been granted, but a change of venue should have been requested. For example, in Dallas, he would have had a diverse jury. That's good to know. Mm-hmm. Under Texas Penal Code 19.02, murder is defined as an incident in which someone knowingly inflicted harm that they knew would cause serious bodily harm, and one does not have to be premeditated. Well, that's terrible. That's interesting, though. So there's no men's, like, well, it has intent because it say knowingly inflicted harm. So that's like as soon. See, the thing is that let me tell you why that definition is tough. The definition is tough because there's always the potential of harming someone. right? So if you pull out a knife, you may think you just want to scare somebody, but you know that the knife has a capability. If you have a gun, you may want to take it out and just scare somebody like, yeah, you move one more and you blow your kneecap out. So you know that it has the potential of harm. They must have something higher than this, maybe. So maybe capital murder, maybe capital. See, our degrees, we have open murder here. And then the court, then as the facts come together, they'll first degree, second degree manslaughter, wherever, felony murder, wherever it belongs. But maybe they got a capital murder that has intent, because they got the death penalty in Texas, right? They failed to allow the juror to see him as a human, in my opinion. I am unique. Said, hey, Pam and everyone, it would not have mattered if he took the stand or not. His fate was sealed when he stepped in the courtroom in that county. All righty. I guess I'm saying it more, and you may be 100% right. I guess I'm just saying it from a perspective of, as a defense attorney, you fight, you start winning. You give it all you got, and it just felt like, in my opinion, based on what was being reported, that it just didn't feel like they gave it all they had to protect this young man. That's all. To protect his rights. You said yes, he would have been given a death penalty if it was capital. I saw that as well. That's the guy who called Carmelo over, recorded the interaction, and then said he really didn't know Carmelo like he did. So much to this case that looks. Okay, here's. I ain't never seen nobody with all these darn. Hold on. People making pages just to keep coming on my page is absolutely ridiculous. Hold on. See if it's on here. Oh, Jesus. It's not letting me do this on here. All right. Yeah, they're saying witnesses said he basically threatened the kid if he touched him, and when the kid pushed him, he went in his bag for the weapon. Oh, wow. Carmelo went looking for trouble that day. They listed the items in his book bag and said you can tell he wasn't intentionally trying to hurt anyone. That's why I wish he would have said, he would have got on the stand, but hey, maybe it was a method to their madness. I'm just on the sideline. I know it's not easy being a defense attorney. So I'm very sad for both families. However, I didn't want to see him get life. I agree. Barbie floppy possum, I agree. The change of venue was denied. Okay. Thank you for that. And so they did do a motion to try to change the venue, according to what you're saying. So you said technically Texas does not have first or second degree murder like other states? Okay. Well, they say that according to some attorneys out of Texas, they did say that he would be eligible for parole with half of his time. So maybe about 17 years. So if he goes into prison and again, this is assuming he doesn't win on any appeals or get out otherwise, any post-conviction motions, he will be up for parole. And he has to make sure, if that's the case, he need to make sure he is a model citizen in prison, which is hard for a lot of people to do. Go get your college degree while you're in there. Go get you some trades. because they do look at all of that as well. But he does have an opportunity to get out. I mean, he ain't get 99 years, so I guess we could be grateful for that. Very sad, KMJ. Was his intent to inflict injury? It doesn't sound like intent to inflict injury matters. It sounds like it's similar to kind of like the Tory statute with Meg. It was you know that this weapon can cause injury. You know that your action with this weapon can cause injury. So it's a knowingly. So of course you know that if you swing a knife at somebody and you connect, you're gonna hurt them. Of course you know if you shoot a gun at somebody with bullets in it, you may kill them or hurt them, you know. So to me, that's just kind of low of a bar, but for those type of years, but maybe that's why they do the range between 5 and 99 years, because typically with like a first degree murder, you can get like life without parole. And for those with the death penalty, they'll put you in the chair or lethal injection or fire squad. There was a United States Supreme Court decision a couple of years ago where a guy, I think where was he from? I can't remember where he was from, but I feel like it might have been a federal case. But he really went to the Supreme Court because he didn't want to go by lethal injection. He wanted to do the fire squad. And the court said he has the right to choose how he dies. Okay. That's not true. You said self-defense gets thrown out the window because he was already committing a crime by bringing a knife to school. He was under 18. That's not true. Don't matter. If you self-defense it's people that have been felons caught with guns, but if they were self-defense of a third person or of themselves, they've been able to get off of them. So that's not necessarily you're automatically guilty and can't use self-defense because you weren't supposed to have a gun in the first place, or you weren't supposed to have a knife in the first place. Soft Life Diary said, I agree, his defense didn't humanize him at all. I started watching Jasmine Crockett's video last night, and then she started out, I think, talking about her own case. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go back to it when she gets onto this specific case, because she's out of Texas and she's a lawyer that practiced there. And so I was very curious to see what her take would be on it. But you know, my distractions, I started doing something else, and then that was a wrap. I forgot all about Jasmine Crockett being on. But I'm definitely going to check it out. Thank you so much for reminding me. Let me write that down, because you're trying to watch Jasmine Crockett. How long was it? How long was her video? We didn't expect him to walk. We just...
Namaskar. Welcome.
That was a wrap. I forgot all about Jasmine Crockett being on. But I'm definitely going to check it out. Thank you so much for reminding me. Let me write that down, because you're trying to...
Biggest thing on my mind right now is the way that his innocence is taken away, the way that, like, you know, to Angel's point, when you go into the system, that's a traumatizing experience. Anybody that's been through it can tell you, like, it is not something, like you said, it's not rehabilitative at all. So I'm just very sad that this is how this has turned out for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm gonna go to a question from some of the people that are watching, but I also like have a question myself that I just want to kind of chime in on. It says, we got a couple of them. All right, this is for my lawyers. What role does prosecutorial discretion play in cases like this? Anybody want to jump on?
I will say for me, that's been a big thing. The prosecution, the choice here. We know that we have a lot of data, especially for capital cases, that white victims often get stronger sentences. And that has stood out for me a lot thinking about this, is that yes, he obviously had the evidence to support a first degree murder case, which is what happened. The jury came back very quickly with that. But I just kept thinking about manslaughter there would acknowledge the youth, the recklessness, the brain that's not fully developed. I just didn't think, I just kept thinking like the intent here. And I had people saying, well, we know that he said he did it, that I think that the intent is clear. And clearly this jury felt that. But I think for many of us who humanize him, who are looking at this young man as a young man, a child, we see this as reckless behavior, not that he intended to murder somebody. And so I often think about this. I think about you think about the case with the cop that murdered the young man by going to the wrong apartment in the Dallas area a couple years ago, and how I believe that she was charged with manslaughter. And just thinking about that and how, she intended to go in there, but she was wrong. And so the discretion here and the decision here, I think is very important. And I encourage people to look at the data, because we know that our criminal justice system sees white victims differently. It humanizes white victims, and it offers them and their families a different type of justice than Black victims get. And when we talk about inequities in our system, I often think about that. It's one reason why I'm not for the death penalty, because we know that
but anyone that has a brain, notice all of these lawyers, Black women, Black men, nobody is saying Buddy should have got off. They're saying the charges were excessive, maybe not even like 100%, but it's a they're saying like maybe all white jury is questionable. Like, those are the things they're arguing. They're not arguing his innocence. Like, everybody know he's guilty of his action. People are now debating afterwards. Afterwards, that's all. But nobody is arguing. Only a bunch of fools online are arguing. A bunch of fools online is arguing whether the dude is innocent or not. I had a discussion yesterday with a fool. He said, "Oh, they jumped Carmelo." I said, "Really?" I said, "It's interesting because you mean they put hands and feet on him?" "No." "Huh? But you said they jumped him." "Yeah, they jumped him." "So more than one person put hands and feet on him?" "No." So I said, "Bro, you from the hood?" "Oh yeah, I'm from Baltimore." You know how people be lying. "I'm from Baltimore City, but back what Blueface be saying, Bull Street backyard bully, whatever he be saying, schoolyard crip." Like, dude, you from the hood? "Yeah, I'm from Baltimore City, man, schoolyard crip." I'm like, and yo, what's your definition of a jump? I thought jumping in Black society, Black American society, was like universal language. Like, yo, what's your definition of jump? "Oh, when somebody just grab you up or push you." Wait, bro. All right. Yeah. Are you a tether, bro? Nah, I'm foundational. Do you have tether spirits? Okay, bro. Run that back. You said a chunk is simply somebody grabs you up and one finish is back. One person help is V1 you fade. That's a jump. That's all jump means when one person fading. It's a jump. Like a jump thing. You get your name dollar. You jump by more than person. But the so-called IS that. So I'm like, well, jump off my damn panel. I blocked and got up off here. Yo, listen, man. when I demand honest conversations with foreigners, if you're Black American with a lineage through chattel slavery, same thing. You hop on my panel, it's an honest conversation, or you got to get up off. I don't want no tether energy. I don't want to see a real tether, or tether energy. I don't want to see a cosplaying FBA tether. If you're FBA, but you're cosplaying as a tether because you can't be honest with yourself, yeah, I got to treat you like so.
That it's very rare. It's not, I shouldn't say rare, but Black victims do not get their families don't often get death penalty cases in those situations. So that's one thing that's kind of stood out for me here. And this isn't to dehumanize what happened to this family. This is an awful tragedy. And I've said that there was going to have to be something there was going to be a sentence. I understood that some time ago, but
you heard that? She understood it had to be a sentence. People look at the evidence with an objective, non-racial eye, understand he was wrong. Okay, now could he got off? You know, like let's say he got off, like he beat it somehow. I ain't gonna complain. I ain't gonna debate he should have been convicted. Nah, you get off, you get off. But he didn't get off, and the facts were the facts. You know, the facts didn't change. So notice that people, lawyers, Black attorney, Black, who love Carmelo, who love looking at him as their like a little brother, their nephew, their grandson. They're all like, nah, the dude, you know, he wild out. He wild out, and he's facing the consequences. He's facing some harsh. Probably the consequences are more harsh than anybody Black American. Okay, but he is, you know, he did something that was bad. That should have never happened.
felt like the prosecutor going for first degree murder for a 17-year-old who, as Courtney noted, had a cross and puzzles in his backpack, who
Correct.
was bullied by a larger person. I felt like it lacked humanity, and it was really trying to just to really go after this young man. I often think about adultification of Black boys as well. We know that Black kids in our school systems are treated like adults and seen as adults and held to that standard at a very young age. And I kept going to that as well. And so somebody was like, y'all just mad because he's Black. And I was like, I'm mad because I understand the system. And I understand how this system mistreats Black boys and young Black kids. And that's what I'm mad about. And this is another example of that.
So I'm gonna do something. People gonna be mad. All right, so because I laid out the mens rea, I did not further lay out one of the things that pissed me off about law school and doing is specifically how the mens rea plays out. So it is the intent to commit the act. So saying I feared for my life, and so I acted, then you're saying that I was doing it intentionally. So you end up in this box of like, either I was unlawful in my actions or I was reasonable, and therefore it is okay. Now you get into some special instructions sometimes if it's escalation, right? So, you know, I think that there is a creative way to get somewhere if it's like, all right, you were in reason time unlawful in my actions or I was all right. So because I laid out the men's So I'm gonna do something. People gonna be mad. All right, so because I laid out the mens rea, I did not further lay out one of the things that pissed me off about law school and doing is specifically how the mens rea plays out. So it is the intent to commit the act. So saying I feared for my life, and so I acted, then you're saying that I was doing it intentionally. So you end up in this box of like, either I was unlawful in my actions or I was reasonable and therefore it is okay. Now you get into some special instructions sometimes if it's escalation, right? So, you know, I think that there is a creative way to get somewhere if it's like, all right, you were in reasonable fear, but like going back to that eye for eye type situation, right? So it gets tricky because you really have to say, I intended to do it in order to get the instruction for self-defense. Did he get the self-defense instruction?
He got a manslaughter instruction, and they did give a self-defense. So they had the option of they had an option for murder. They added the manslaughter, and then there was a self-defense.
Okay, so they did give him self-defense.
And they didn't release I haven't seen the release jury instruction because again, they got everything on lock.
They
so you
got
just have to hear what everybody has said. But the manslaughter was added today. That was a good sign, I thought, because I was like, that's a step in the right direction.
Right.
But I'm sure the way that they argued it, like prosecutors are like the way that they argued it is like, either you believe that he was reckless in what he did, right? Like it was just reckless, which usually is going to be something a little bit more than playing with a gun, but instead like, you know, like playing with a gun and it accidentally discharging criminally negligent homicide, playing Russian roulette, right? Like, you know that there's one in the chamber somewhere and putting it to your friend's head that ain't negligence. That's straight up recklessness, because we know that there's one in the chamber. We don't know which one, but we know, right? Like, that's reckless behavior. And so, like, you know, it's interesting because as a defense attorney, you got to just lay in on one of them. You got to lay in and say, either I'm gonna try to walk you, right? So we going with like, nope, I intentionally did this because I truly believe that they were trying to kill me, and so therefore it was me or them. Or you have to just say, and that's why when you said, Courtney, about him talking a lot, which, yes, we need to probably say this 1,000 more times. The police ain't your friends. They not your friends. They not your friends. They not your friends. So please, 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 please.
Yo, the whole ghetto stuff she's doing in the background. I mean, come on, the sister girl shit she doing. This old Jasmine Crockett shit, she got to stop. She chimping out. But yeah, if the police officers are looking at you as a suspect, if you sense that, if you think, especially if you actually did it, don't listen. You're going to jail anyway. Okay, nothing you're going to say is going to get you out of those handcuffs. So you might as well just don't say anything. They talk to you, hey man, I don't want to say anything, and you ask them, "I under arrest?" Because what happens is, if you're not under arrest, they can keep asking you questions. You ain't got to answer, but they can keep asking you. It's not a problem until you stress, am I under arrest? And then once they're forced to say no, now you can because once you're under arrest, they can't ask you questions. So the misconception is that people believe police officers got to read you their rights when they arrest you. No, they don't. They just reading you your rights means they can't question you without you having an opportunity to lawyer you up first. Okay, so if they don't read you your rights, they can ask you questions. Okay, now they can ask you questions, and those questions would determine or not some things. But you got to know that if they don't have to read you your rights upon arresting you, but what happens is they read you your rights because if you say anything to the officer, um, that could be possibly thrown out of court. So you know what I mean? Possibly, I don't know. I gotta look at that. But all I know is that once you say I don't want to answer any questions, once you learn you're under arrest, anything from there for sure getting thrown out. So once you say, "Hey man, am I under arrest?" He got to make a determination. If it's no, okay, see ya. Am I free to go? No, hold up. But you said I'm not under arrest. Am I detained? So which is it? Am I under arrest? Am I detained? And you want all that on record because they will play games like that. But this is good game right here. This is $1 million worth of game. You want to first know, are you under arrest? Because just because you're in handcuffs don't mean you're under arrest. A common practice of detaining you is putting you in handcuffs. That's a common practice, especially if they believe you're a threat, your size, or maybe you had a legal weapon in the car. They got you for their safety. They'll put you in handcuffs. Okay, this is $1 million worth of game. This could save your life. You ain't gonna get this on other channels. You dig? But yeah, man. So you asked them, hey, I'm under arrest. If they say yes, then I'm pleading the fifth. I will exercise my right to remain silent. If they say you're not under arrest, but they want to ask you questions, that's when you say, am I free to go? That's all. I'm not under arrest. Okay, am I free to go? If he says no, you're being detained, you say, okay. And by the way, every police, if you're in a car and you get pulled over, all of that is a detainment. So don't ask that dumb question. Officer, am I being detained? The fact that you're in the car and he pulled you over, you're detained. Once those lights go on and you pull over, yeah, those emergency lights cut on, you're detained. So you don't got to ask the question. You are in a car. That's different. But outside the car, you want to know, am I detained? Yes. Okay. So I want to ask you a question. No, I'm good. I'm not obligated to help you out in your investigation against me. Am I a fool? I'm not obligated to help you with your investigation to lock me up. Sir, go do your thing. So once you're being detained, I don't believe you got to check your state laws, but I don't, because different states, different laws. So some states you're not required to give ID during a detainment. I know in New Jersey, New York, you ain't got to no ID if you're not arrested. A detainment, I don't got to give ID, and they can't search me. But once you arrest, they can search you. All right. So you gotta know that too. Oh, you search me legally? No. Once you're under arrest, I can search you. I can't. They can't search you when you're detained, because the detainment is part of when they detain you, they're trying to figure out if they're going to arrest you or not. So it's not a foregone conclusion. But once you're arrested, all bets are off. So you should not be willing to talk to an officer if you believe you are a suspect of a crime, and especially if you did the crime. You don't want to talk at all. Zero. There's nothing you can say. So when Carmelo said, yes, I did it, he shouldn't have said that, because a good lawyer could have had the kids prove you did it. Just because somebody said you did it don't mean you did it. You feel me? So had he not said nothing, and just which I don't fault him, he's a young kid, but the more hood kids would have said nothing. What you talking about? I ain't do nothing, man. I don't know what you talking about. Like, that's what a hood kid would have did. So now they got to prove you even did it. So now what your lawyer can do during trial, when they trying to finger you out, your lawyer can debunk their fingers. Like, you sure? What was he wearing? You know what I mean? They can add doubt like that. And that's all you need is reasonable doubt. But these are the things I learned, like watching stuff like this. But yeah, man, if you are the suspect of a crime, and if you don't want to talk, in most cases you shouldn't, especially if black, especially as a black American, you shouldn't. But there's nothing wrong with talking too if you're innocent. So if you're innocent, you can talk or not talk. But if you're guilty, you should, or you got some guilt association, you should never talk. It never works in your favor, ever. That's why they tell you anything you say can, and not just can, will be used against you, and nothing in no Miranda rights. And by the way, I did the history of Miranda rights about 3 years ago. Okay, so, and that's an interesting story. But nothing in those Miranda rights do they say what you say can acquit you or drop charges or get you out of handcuffs. Nothing in that Miranda rights tell you that. So literally everything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. Speaking to officers, so she's right. She had the whole ghetto vibe. I ain't like that. She's being like the stereotypical, that's whack. I'm gonna back it up so you can see it yourself. Like she's being like stereotypical, like sister girl with attitude, like extra hood. Probably non-FBA if we dig deep.
I don't care if you gotta lay in your.
Then the wig with the glasses is like with the bleaching cream. It's like, man, the cake soap is like, yo, it ain't hitting what you think it's hitting. Jasmine Crockett, like, you can't be a 6 or a 5.5, and then there's nothing you can do to make yourself a 9. There's nothing. No BBL, no fake lashes, no eyebrow drawn in eyebrows, no wig, nothing, no Brazilian wig. Nothing can make you a 9 if you are, organically born a 6. What you can do is you can go from a 5.5 to a solid 6 or 6+, but nothing you're gonna do is gonna make you a 9. Okay, it's just genetics.
That ain't negligence. That's straight up recklessness, because we know that there's one in the chamber. We don't know which one, but we know, right? Like, that's reckless behavior. And so, like, it's interesting because as a defense attorney, you got to just lay in on one of them. You got to lay in and say, either I'm gonna try to walk you, right? So we going with like, nope, I intentionally did this because I truly believe that they were trying to kill me, and so therefore it was me or them. Or you have to just say, and that's why when you said, Courtney, about him talking a lot, which yes, we need to probably say this 1,000 more times. The police ain't your friends. They're not your friends. They're not your friends.
All that right
they're
there.
not your friends. So please, 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 please. I don't care if you are absolutely positive that you ain't done nothing wrong.
Don't talk.
Shut up.
Your only word needs to be lawyer.
And
Lawyer. And if you under 18, parent, guardian, something.
And I'm sorry, but if I could tell y'all how many times a black mama that messed up one of my cases, don't be on the phone answering your mama. But tell her I just need to get out of jail. Do not, because their first inclination is what did you do on that jailhouse
I knew
phone?
it. Hey, yo, I said it as soon as she said it. What did you do on the jailhouse phone? Exactly. So they love when you call your parents, brother, sibling, friend, homie, OG. They love that.
And there is nothing that is protected about that conversation with her, your baby mama, your granny, whoever it is that you call. And I love them to pieces. But they done messed up some of my cases. Because if there's anybody you want to talk to, you gonna answer to your mama. Do that when y'all are in person and ain't no phones nearby or nothing. Y'all can have y'all's own conversation, because I've had to try to argue against my own clients' words because they don't know the law. So even though Carmelo said, ain't that self-defense, he was asking a question.
Correct.
And so literally being able to tell a jury and say, listen, before y'all walked in here, what did you know of self-defense? You didn't know anything. In fact, we had to give you a whole legal instruction because none of y'all are legally trained. So why is it that you believe that a 17-year-old child somehow would know this? And so, but we have to backdoor and pull out and make people, it gets difficult. So mamas, don't you ever ask your child what they done on their jailhouse phone. You get their ass out and then y'all figure that out, okay? Because y'all mess up life for a good lawyer. And never, ever, ever, ever talk. You have a constitutional right. You have multiple, actually.
Take
right
it.
to be silent is one, and you got the right to counsel, okay?
Right.
Use them. So yeah, so we have one black man on here. So I feel like we need to go to you before we go to our next question.
Well, first, thank you for inviting me on this call. Great to be
Somebody just
around.
sent me the jury instructions. This is what happened.
I got him as well. It was probably the same person.
Great to be around these lovely
I got
ladies.
him.
However, my wife is also watching. We just celebrated our anniversary yesterday.
Related.
Thank you. One thing that I believe we have to get back to is we got to get back to telling our children, especially our young black, we have to start giving our teens the talk again. I may be dating myself, but when I was younger and fresh with a driver's license and hitting the streets, my mother's like, look out for the police. If you get stopped by them, don't you see anything, you call me. And that's what we have to get back to. Now,
thank you. And I'm like one of the only voices besides me and Dennis Sperling is going hard. Me and Dennis Sperling, it's a couple guys. I think Nate the lawyer, but I think he more like questionable, conservative type of guy. But yeah, he's questionable. But legally, he be on point. But me and Dennis Sperling has been the loudest voices saying, let's get back to the basics. Let's get back to borrowing sugar from your neighbor, and like that's figuratively speaking. I don't mean really borrow sugar. I mean like figuratively. You gotta get back to that type of stuff where we connected with our neighbors like that, where I can feel comfortable enough to knock on your door to borrow some sugar. You feel me? We gotta get back to that. We gotta get back to talking to our kids and instructing them with eldership. Like I say we need to learn from these Cyrus Carmelo situations, right? Let's not get emotional and cry and rant and then let this happen to the next kid. No, let's have these conversations with your girls and your boys. Hey, because the girls be having issues too with other girls. So it's like, hey, look, try not to have a weapon, right? As a teen, because you're not going to make the same decision with the weapon as you would 10 years from now. Okay, grown adults are not going to just poke you or drill you or slide. They ain't gonna spin the block again. That's not what grown folks do. That's something what kids do, and that's why kids are getting locked up for. That's why it's part of the kids' language. That's not the grown folk language. To slide, spin the block, crash out. That's little kid languages, right? Who are very young and game goofy. So instead of them passing bad information to each other, let's be that vessel to give them to the right eldership information. Hey man, try not to even have a weapon on you, period. Because you're gonna act more impulsive than me when you're confronted with a serious issue. So yeah, so let's not even have that on you. You dig? Secondly, let's teach them what self-defense law is in your state. Some states right to retreat, right to the duty to retreat. Some states you can stand your ground. Got to know that. You see, okay, but all this is going on, all this back and forth, and none of y'all still know about self-defense. Still, all of this, you got all these opinions. But you still don't understand self-defense. Still now, don't. Yeah, but got to get back to talking to our kids or having people like me game you up, and you can go tell them what I said, and you can fact check it, whatever. You know how I do. When I see stuff, it's already fact checked. So it's certified, it's stamped. So, what I mean, repeat what I say to your kids, loved ones, or have them pull up on the live. I go easy.
Texas. Texas is probably one of the most violent states in this country. There is this push to allow any and everybody to get a gun. Don't mess with Texas. Why do you need to walk around with the AR-15 going into Chipotle? You have that. Why are people walking around with guns? Because of the fact that if you just poke them, they're going to shoot you. And so we have this environment. We have elected officials campaigning with guns. The whole family got guns. And so you have this atmosphere, and then you have this young man who the kid was bigger than him. He very well may have feared for his life. But the thing is that we take our kids and we move them up into these suburbs thinking that they're going to have a better life, and they deal with concentrated racism. So we don't know what that young man dealt with on a daily basis, dealing with the environment that he was in, and again, he's living in the suburbs. He's a little suburban kid, so he doesn't really understand what he just did, and so he's not a habitual criminal, not even a criminal. It's not even leaning towards criminality. So he's talking to people that he thinks he can trust because he knows that something wasn't right about what happened. Now, the problem is that none of these people he really could trust because none of these people were his friends because of the fact that all these people had a propensity to testify against him. But I think, I was reading this quote by Malcolm X. I'm not going to read it out loud. I think you know where I was headed with. But some of the things that we're talking to our kids about, we have to be very measured in how we speak about certain things because this is a different age. And these young men and our young women that we're raising, we're not raising them to be fighters. We're not raising them to be martyrs. We're raising them to be functioning members of society. But we have to make sure that we remind them that there are many in this society that don't want them to be functioning.
Mhm.
They don't want them to be successful. They made an example out of Carmelo Anthony because they could have gone lenient on him. They could have. The prosecution could have seen that, okay, this is a tragic, tragic mistake. If the races would have been reversed, they would have shown.
Now, everything they say at this point, I agree with them. But you heard his language. This was a mistake. Nobody besides race baiters is going to believe he's innocent. This was a mistake, tragedy. They could have been lenient. That's what I thought. When I heard 35 years, I was like, wow, they did him dirty. But man, yeah, from what I heard, Carmelo's a good kid. It's like, how's a good kid end up with a knife and be so violent? You dig, over a push. And I feel like maybe you got to question his home. You got to say, okay, what is going on? Because good kids are raised in broken homes. You know, like, man, what was he going through to like crash out like that? It's kind of crazy.
The humanity of the young man who committed the crime. They would have done like Ethan Couse with it. Ethan Couse killed what, four people?
Mm.
And they said that it was because of the fact that he was too rich and didn't know right from wrong. Kyle Rittenhouse was gunning for people. So we are in a situation where we can't fight back, as Reese Colbert said. But then if we run, they may shoot us in the back.
Mm.
So it's like you put us in between a rock and a hard place. And so we have to come up with strategies to save our young people.
We already did. It's called delineation, but you got a couple delineation with Black excellence. So delineation, Tariq came up with that. Yvel Carnell said disaggregation, and unbiased Ron, I said Black. We got a couple all that with Black excellence. That means we maintain our integrity, our morality, our honesty, our credibility, on top of delineating, on top of disaggregating. You dig? Raise the bar. Let's get back to Dr. King, Medgar Evers, and like those people. Harriet Tubman, Madam C.J. Walker, Madam Delaney Walker. You dig? Like, let's get back to that type of excellence. You did Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass, Biddy Mason. Like, let's get back to that type of excellence. Like, people, the bottom line is that we been in the mud, getting stuff out the mud for so long that some of us build a home in the mud. And they like, we just mudslingers. And I'm saying, yo, wash that mud off and practice Black excellence along with reparations, delineation, disaggregation.
That are growing up in hostile environments, because that's exactly what it is.
You know what? I just thank you, and you just invoked Chow into the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because somehow we could understand why he was scared that this child who allegedly stole water that he didn't steal
Mm-hmm.
and was running away
Yep.
and was shot in the back. Somehow all of that was reasonable. That is that. So I know Courtney is probably looking at these instructions, and one of the things I did not think about as it relates to Texas law, and I am curious as to whether or not it actually ended up being alleged in the trial, is we have this deal about if you were committing a crime at the time. So unfortunately, like felon in possession of a firearm, right? So like if somebody shoots at somebody, but they are a felon, and so they are unlawfully possessing a firearm, in the state of Texas, they can't defend themselves. They just got to get shot or go to jail for shooting back. Like there is this, and so in the jury instruction, and I just thought about it because this was, it was a school, and I don't know anything about
property. It was school property. It was connected, and he brought a 3.5-inch blade. It was a multi-tool. The jury saw it, but yes, he shouldn't have had it. He shouldn't have had it.
Yeah, I don't know if like we'd have to run me down through a whole bunch, but that right there alone may have voided, and they may have argued that in the case. July is gonna go next, but unless Courtney, you have that part. That was the one thing that stuck out, and I'm like, ooh, I forgot all about, especially in Texas, because everybody but it's all campuses.
Yeah.
Campuses on.
Ma'am, stick to a point. You're all over the place. I'm trying to follow you. Then your ADD kicked in. Yo, stay focused. Land the plane on one point and then introduce another one. Right now, you're confusing me. You're all over the place. You ain't complete a thought yet. Texas, no, complete the last one. I'm trying to learn from lawyers. You dig? Attorneys. I'm trying to learn, but you defense counsels, but you over here, one thought, you just stop. And Texas, can you complete a thought and then say Texas?
Campus, near campuses, we have a whole bunch of extra stuff that we do, whether it's drugs or weapons. Like everything is heightened and everything is against the law. So there is a part in there, and I am curious if they argued that, even
I think
though
it was against the student code of conduct, but I'm not positive on
no,
that.
it's definitely gotta be illegal, unlawful. Let me find that instruction. July, you want to talk while I find the instruction part on that?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. Before I get into it, right now, I want to just love on Black men right now.
Amen.
It's been a lot watching sons and feeling as though sons are not getting justice. So I just want to encourage my brothers right now. And then there are people who are going to have demonic things to say about Black people in this moment. Black people, let me tell you, you are made, you are wonderfully created and woven with joy, with love and joy. So don't ever let it disturb or.
You know what's crazy? I was at the gym yesterday and I was talking to these Chinese dudes that I play ball with. Well, we shoot around. They don't really play ball with me too much. They usually like maybe play a rough 21, something like that, or like a little small 2-on-2 before better competition come in. They usually step off when better competition. But I always have good conversation with them. All right. So we were talking about basketball because I was balling with a Julius Randolph playing ass dude. Dude ain't know how to pass for nothing. Like he only pass when it's convenient for him. I check the ball up. He's running to the ball like, dude, what are you doing? I mean, they leaving the guy open. He's shooting 3-pointers. He's shooting them so hard. It's a turn. And then we got to go back on defense. Like, yo, this dude is doing the most. He doesn't swing. He don't believe in swinging the ball. Like he believe in just ball hogging. Like, oh, like a Luka Doncic type of guy. He's carrying on his head fakes, his shot fakes. He's carrying. Nobody's calling it. Like, dude. And so he thinks he's just LeBron James, basically. So anyway, so me and every loss, because the Asian guys was on the winning team, we couldn't beat them for nothing because this guy. And we be up 7-0, 8-1, 12-4. We still lose because this guy just don't believe in swinging the ball. He just don't. You know, he swings the ball when he only has to. Anyway. So I was talking to the Asian guy about work, you know, different things. The Asian guy seemed pretty cool. And I've been knowing him for years. So we again, everybody, I attract everybody. That's who I am, man. So the Asian guy is talking to me about work and blah blah what he did. Like we always talk about each other. He's from New York. Anyway, he ended the conversation. He said, hey man, well when you back? I said, that's a wrap. I said, I'm only off today because it's a holiday. Then he made this comment next. He said, yeah man, Juneteenth. What is that? Like he said it in like a disrespectful way. Like yeah, Juneteenth. Like I never heard of this. Like when this become a holiday or something like that. Like in a disrespectful way. Like I mean like I couldn't tell you if he meant it. It felt like to me. Now I'm cool with this guy, but it felt like he meant it. It felt like he meant the disrespect with Juneteenth. Okay, I didn't take it as when he first said it, and I don't forget I was supposed to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm cool with him, but I didn't take it as though he was just misspoke. It came off as he purposely said it in a disrespectful way. Right. So I'm like, dang, he didn't put me in the situation. So I'm like, all right, look. I said, bro, Juneteenth. And I'm not a Juneteenth expert, by the way, in no shape, form, but I got some interesting stuff for you because Roland Martin had played a Juneteenth white guy, and it was interesting. But I'm learning about Juneteenth more. But I lived in Dallas, Texas. So I told the Chinese guy, I said, listen, man, Texas, I said, yeah, you gotta understand Texas. Texas believe they are the United States. I said, look at the Dallas Cowboys. They're called the America's team. I said, when I was in Texas, I learned the 50 nifty states: Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada. I could do all 50 states. I learned that when I was 10. I still know every last, I know the song, 50 nifty United States from 13 original colonies, 15 nifty United States from 13, each individual state deserves a bow. Let's salute them now. Like, I even know my school songs, by the way. 38 years later, I remember my school songs. I know the 50 nifty states. I know my school songs. I went to school I went to. Okay. So I said, bro, at the end of the song, we would say Texas, out of the 50 states, Texas is the best of the 50 nifty United States. So I'm like, yo, so that's Texas flexing. So I said, bro, so just follow me. I said, I'm explaining Juneteenth. I said, but Juneteenth was normally a Texas state observation. I said, but Texas, the way they feel like they are the United States. So they try to make it, whatever they do, they want the United States to embrace it. So I said, now, Juneteenth was something great for blacks on all 50 states. So it makes sense it wasn't just for, I mean, it was for Texans at the time, but the observation of it is for all black Americans and even white Americans. So I said, so it's more to do with that, but I said it was a state observance that was just made national. I said, that's all it is. I said, we in America, this happens all the time. I left it like that, and he had no rebuttal. But you know what I mean? So I just made it real simple. But Chinese guy, and look, I didn't even think about the Asian thing, and he could have been throwing a shot because when I talk to him, it's usually never that type of discussion. So maybe he feels a certain way about the boycott. I don't know. Okay. All I know is that what he said, and it was interesting because he said it in like a disrespectful way. Like, what is like what? Why is the country acknowledging this day? Yeah. And I bet you if I was to ask him about the holiday, he probably wouldn't know anything about it.
Steal your joy. I woke up this morning with that, and I'm going to go to bed with that tonight. Don't lose your joy. When it comes to the matter of the 3.5-inch tool, which for just conversation's sake, we'll refer to it as a knife for conversation purposes, right? The fact that he had it was always going to be an issue. And that's what I tried to remind people, so that when this moment came, we would kind of have some footing or balance to take the blow. I imagine that the jury.
Right. So I'm telling my youth, a responsible elder, telling my youth and my peers, please don't have something on you that you could if angered or in fear, you can use it as a deadly weapon. You don't need that on you. You dig? Because situation is gonna be difficult for you. And that's why most people are just bowing out and holding the L, but we feel like everything else was BS. The all white juror, we felt like, the no cameras in the courtroom. We felt like the 35, all that stuff was like kind of ridiculous. That was adding salt to injury type thing. We all thought it was, but people backed away. People like responsible elders in Black American lineage, we backed away once we realized he had a weapon that is not permitted to be carried on that campus. Like that's when he gave himself no defense after that. Now we're just trying to lessen the blow. We're not trying to do a self-defense. That should never been argued. It should have been lessening the blow. I'm 17. I crashed out. It wasn't my intentions. Because again, self-defense, you got to admit intention. So if you're not doing self-defense, hey, it wasn't my intention. I apologize. I'm sorrowful. And maybe get like a 15-year sentence because you deleted somebody, my guy. Like, I'm not gonna make a life less. Just like we don't want somebody making a Black life less. A life is a life, man. So you just can't take a life by mistake and go home. Right? That's not gonna happen unless it's justifiable by the evidence and the law. His case wasn't that. Yeah, so my thing is, let's not ride dirty. Let's not walk dirty at all. Because without that weapon, and let's say if everything happened the way it happened, Austin Metcalf is alive, and Carmelo Anthony is on his way to college, about to live his best life. And all of y'all got to admit that. Without that weapon as a possibility to be used in a deadly force situation, without that weapon, whatever would have happened, they all would have ended up living their life afterwards, free and alive. The weapon was the neutralizer. That's why you ask yourself, what would he have done had he not had the knife? You think he would have said, touch me and see what happens? You think that would have been said? If you're truly in fear of your life, you think you'd have been de-escalating, like, yo, chill out, man, just relax. Now I'm not leaving, but it's a tent for everybody, but just chill out. Hey, can somebody go get coach? Get his coach? Because right now he's bugging out, bro. And you can say, yo, Metcalf, you chimping out, bro. I'm not leaving, bro. You chimping out. It's raining. It's America. It's public property. I can go anywhere I want. Without that knife, man, nobody's unalived and nobody's doing 35 years. We all can admit that.
Was going to struggle with, well, why would he have that? They were going to ignore everything else that was in his backpack, as Courtney has already expressed. Like, he had crossword puzzles, he had a cross, he had snacks. They were going to ignore all of that because of this instrument, this knife, this tool, right? And it ended up being causing a fatal situation. We can't ignore that. When you go to a public school, if you are an adult who is licensed to carry in the state of Texas, this is why I tell people to get licensed. You learn the law about carrying. You cannot be within 1,000 feet of a school with a handgun. You cannot be on a school campus with weapons, right? And so he left his school, traveled on a school bus to another school district facility, this stadium, this Kokendall or something was the name of the stadium. So whether he knew or not that he couldn't have it, he had it. He knew he had it because don't touch me. Like, as long as you don't touch me. Now, we know in our community, and I'm talking to my community, in our community, that is a way to tell somebody, just leave me alone, man. Right?
That's a fair point. And that's why all white jury was wrong, because we say things as cultural language that's not really meant as a threat. Is meant as maybe a fearful way to say, like she said, leave me alone. That's a fair point. Okay. But in other cultures, that's not how they look at that. And that's why it's important to have, that's why you got to have Black Americans on the juror, in the jury, as a juror. Okay. They didn't do that. They had all white people there. And don't tell me that Hispanic, that Asian person ain't white. Those are all white people.
But also, it's also a footing for, I done told you, leave me alone, right? But the victim didn't believe him. In another community, that can sound like provocation. So when we look at the Penal Code, section 9.31, self-defense does exist, unless, right? And there are 3 points where the unless is, and provocation is one. So the jury could have also looked at that as provocation, where as long as you don't touch me. And then he got touched, and then that happened. The fatal thing happened, right? So I just want to remind us, we got to have these tough conversations with each other in community. And we also have to have these conversations with our children. That means we may need to do some larger conversations offline in community. But I want you tonight to hold your babies a different way. I want you to call your brothers and your sisters and text people and just tell them you love them, because there is a pain that's going across the community. And after the child decision last week, I kind of warned people on my TikTok, like, hey, brace yourselves, because we have another trial that's about to take place. And understanding the demographics of Collin County, we knew that jury probably was not going to reflect a jury of his peers. I'm curious what even the ages were of those people who served on that jury. Because again, jury of your peers. His peers are in high school or maybe freshmen in college, right? So when you take all those things into consideration, it could be a lot. So I want to remind people to be mindful of their mental health in this moment. We got days to discuss this case, days. You know, this baby is facing 35 years. He would have to serve until he's almost 37 years old before he was up to be released. Yes, they can make an appeal within the next 30 days. They can file the paperwork, but appeals take forever. They take a long time. But right now, I want you, if you're a person of faith, I want you to be praying for his mental health and for his safety. Angel just gave a beautiful example of what, not the example itself wasn't beautiful, but her intent behind it was to paint the picture, to understand what he is facing as he goes into this penal system. And let's understand, Jasmine, you Congresswoman, because we're not at school anymore, but Congresswoman, you brought up a wonderful point when you talked about godly. You brought up something, and these 40s messing with me, but you brought up a point about his humanity, right? And the humanity of the accused. And so I just want to remind us to be mindful of the humanity, because nobody wins in this case. Two families have lost their sons. Yes, they can still hear their son's voice. They can visit him, but it's not the same. And he won't ever be the same after this. In fact, he hasn't been the same since last April. He hasn't been. And so the restoration, yeah, we've really got to pray. If that other thought comes back to me, I'll bring it back up. But thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, I want to get into the hi Erica. I want to get into the instructions just a little bit, because we were going through some real basics, but let me let y'all know what the actual jury was given as the law in this case. I'm gonna just jump in a little bit on page 5, I think. You are further instructed, well, let me go through these definitions a little bit above this. Reasonable belief means a belief that would be held by an ordinary and prudent person in the same circumstances as the defendant. So that's the reasonable person standard that we were talking about, and it's based on like that person, not necessarily you as an individual. Deadly force. Deadly force means force that is intended or known by the person using it to cause, or in the manner of its use or intended use, is capable of causing death or serious bodily injury. As I went through these instructions, they definitely talked about him using a deadly weapon. There was a reason for that, okay? Because there are certain things that in our law are per se deadly weapons, even though theoretically anything can be a deadly weapon. All right, you are further instructed that it is your duty to consider all relevant facts and circumstances surrounding the alleged killing and the previous relationship existing between the accused and the deceased. So this goes back to what I was saying, like if they had a relationship, like what all did you know? And that kind of stuff, like that can come into play. Like if you're like, I know that like he beats people up, he puts people in hospital, whatever. So that is allowed. If any, together with all relevant facts and circumstances going to show the condition of the mind of the accused at the time of the alleged offense. So again, this is all about what would somebody in his shoes do, a reasonable person in his shoes. Now, therefore, bearing in mind the foregoing definition and instructions, if you believe from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, and to be clear, reasonable doubt is on every single element. Every single element of an offense has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, not just one. That the defendant in Collin County, Texas, on or about April 2nd, 2025, did commit murder or manslaughter, but you further find from the evidence or have reasonable doubt thereof that the defendant reasonably believed that deadly force when and to the degree used, if it was immediately necessary to protect himself against the use or attempted use of unlawful deadly force by Austin Metcalf or others with him, you will acquit the defendant and say by your verdict, not guilty.
And based on the testimony, they were never going to select that because the students said, even though sometimes it wasn't completely clear, everybody said it was a light touch or a shove. And so that was always going to be complicated based on the testimony we heard.
The next paragraph, you are further instructed, however, that if you believe from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that at the time and place in question, Austin Metcalf or others with him were not using or attempting to use unlawful deadly force on the defendant, or that the defendant did not reasonably believe that his use of deadly force was immediately necessary, then you will find against the defendant on his plea of self-defense. The final paragraph that I think is relevant, and then we can answer a couple more questions. We can bring Stevie in, and then we can jump off because I don't usually like to go far over an hour. We're a little over. It's a lot of moving parts. In deciding whether the state has proved the defendant did not reasonably believe his use of deadly force was necessary, you must not consider any failure of the defendant to retreat. This is something that you brought up earlier, Courtney, was people being like, why didn't he just walk away or whatever? So this is the retreat language. Let's see, defendant to retreat that might be shown by the evidence if you find both the defendant did not provoke Austin Metcalf, that's number one, the person against whom the defendant used deadly force, and number two, the defendant was not engaged in criminal activity at the time he used deadly force. If you did not find both 1 and 2, you may consider any failure of the defendant to retreat that might be shown by, should say the evidence. Yes, by the evidence in deciding whether the defendant reasonably believed that the use of deadly force was necessary. So it's a 2-part test to determine whether or not you have to retreat under Texas law. And I don't know nothing about this knife, but when I read that part and the fact that it was in the instructions, in my mind, at some point in time in the testimony, it absolutely came up about, and so I'm guessing that they leaned in on that as a prosecutor, and the prosecutor most likely went ahead and gave the instruction and said, I'll give you whatever you want, because the easiest way to get something turned over on appeal is because of an improper instruction. And the only person that is going to appeal something is going to be the defendant. And so if you're a smart prosecutor and you don't want there to be a lot of wiggle room on appeal, you know, there's other evidentiary things and that kind of stuff, but the easiest way to get something actually overturned is an instruction that is improper, because that is how the jury makes their decision. It is, I don't know how long they worked on the charge. I don't know what the charge conferences look like, but any seasoned good prosecutor will basically give the defendant what they want, because it is a way of guaranteeing that, like, yo, we gave it to you, you asked for it, fine, whatever, right? But I'm sure typically what we do in a closing argument is we're gonna argue them instructions. You gonna argue, you're gonna go to the part of the instruction that you like, you gonna have it on the screen, highlight it, everything. You're gonna reiterate it. See, this what the law say. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna argue it. And 9 times out of 10, there was testimony about, I imagine that knife, and again, I don't know enough to know if it qualified as one of the knives, because we do have certain knives that are considered UCW, unlawful carrying of a weapon in the state of Texas.
This one wasn't, because the blade was under the size limit.
That's okay.
But it was unlawful force.
Was it a switch? I don't know what he had.
It was like it seemed like it was a multi-tool, almost like a Swiss Army.
Like with like with the little scissors and everything and whatever. So it was small. Well, I would have argued the size of it alone, you wouldn't even think it's a deadly weapon.
And I forgot he had the bag.
If it was one of the little, like, I don't know. Like, I do think.
Well, that's why he went to his coach and was like, but I don't think I hurt him that bad. And the coach said, but you know, if he passes away, your life changes forever. His coach said that. So, I mean, I think that was the issue.
Have we ever seen a picture of this?
They didn't show it. The jury saw a replica, and they saw a picture of the actual knife because he threw it in the bleachers after. And it only took 1 stab. I think everybody needs to understand it was not like it was multiple times.
So these are the facts that really should have been
honed in on.
Correct. Because those are the ways that you look at intent, right? Like, if you got a machete, bro, it's a wrap, right? Like, I mean, like the size, and even in arguing, these are the things. Right? Like, is like, what do you expect will happen if somebody got a machete versus what do you expect will happen if somebody has like a switchblade, like or a Swiss Army knife, or what? I don't know like what it was or whatever. And you know, if it's 1 stab versus a gazillion, right? Like, where does that put somebody's?
It was 1. It was just in an awful spot. And that was what was the tragedy of the whole thing. It was in an awful place. It only took 1 time. 1 time.
Well, it's been a while since I've been in one of these situations, but I can say that it is it is probably the most difficult thing that I've ever had to do. And I had a kid on actually killing a trans gender boy. Nope, trans girl. He killed a trans girl, and it was so.
What? You let her? Oh, see now, yeah, shame to that boy parents to hire a liberal lawyer to defend a case like that, a trans case. That's a shame. Like she is 100% supportive of that trans. That's crazy.
Complicated, but like when I got the kid, he was 18, and it was Jesus Christ. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. Like it just. So I will say that these cases never leave you as an attorney.
Never.
Like I can run down through, I mean, the dope cases.
No, but when somebody has to stay in jail for life, that is
like you don't. And it's, I mean, when I tell you that it's so emotionally taxing, like I become an empath almost by the time I'm in trial, because especially by the time you get to trial, you have been working with these, like you should see them as not a quote unquote defendant, but as a person. And it gets tough. It gets tough. So the prayers for everybody, the legal team that has to kind of stay in this, dig in deeper, and not second guess themselves about like, did I preserve this error? Is that going to be enough? Like, because those are the things. Like a trial isn't just about like who can be fancy with their arguments. It is a matter of like, judge, I'm gonna need that ruling. What was that? Like, I'm gonna need that on the record. So for the record, judge, you said you were gonna sustain that they XYZ. So yeah, like that is what it is. And those are the things, that is all that the appellate court gets. They just get the record. They get the words on paper, and then, you know, they are told to give deference to the jurist, which in this case was a jury of his peers. Yeah, it is. I wish I could see this weapon though. It's.
If I could,
somebody on the internet, if you got the weapon, because y'all love to scour and get all the things. If y'all was paying attention, post it up for the team, because I really want, because it does. These are the kind of like things, like this is how nitty gritty you have to get on these cases. And I know for us, if you're sitting, you know, on the outside looking in, and granted, we know, just like we have to be 10 times better than our white counterparts, we know that our stuff has to be 10 times tighter. You know, we don't get the same courtesies, benefits, and credibility that others get. And so it's frustrating. And even, I know there have been commentary about why didn't they get him a black lawyer and this and that. I can't tell you what's what, but I can tell you that, you know, there are even people that feel like, all right, we in this white county, we got to get a white man. And I'm not saying that like that's what happened, but I can tell you what has happened before. As somebody who's practiced in these small towns,
especially in North Texas.
Yeah, that doesn't work. As you can see, the Childs didn't go get a white lawyer or Asian lawyer. They got a Black American lawyer. So that's just people hindsight experts.
Somebody who practiced there, and I told people I've been in Collin County Courthouse. I think that's exactly what happened.
I can tell you, as somebody who's been to all of the backwoods in Texas and Arkansas, and I can also tell you that I've been hired on cases just because of who I am. Like literally, there's rape cases that they was like, yeah, so we need you because like we need to add a woman to do the cross-examination. Like there are all these things. And, you know, I don't know who all worked on this case with Toby, but, you know, definitely this feels like a tag team situation. This feels like a black-white situation. For sure is what would have, because you can always have a co-counsel. There's all these things that we think about, y'all. I used to have to put makeup on tattoos on faces, like all the things, all the things, okay? But literally even sometimes just having like your co-counsel that is sitting next to this person and making this like defendant seem more like a person, because jury pays attention to all of it. Having your co-counsel check on, like, one of the things that we used to do for our young defendants is we made sure their clothes didn't fit. The clothes was always big.
That's right.
Were big because we wanted them to look like a kid. Like there's like, y'all don't understand. It's a whole
That's true. We used my daddy's suit for my first trial. We gave my daddy's suit to one of the defendants in law school, and my law professor, that's one of the things she said. We wanted to be a little bit big. You were correct. You were correct.
I know Megan may have y'all thinking that I don't know, baby. I'm trying to tell you, because you got to realize these are regular people, and half the time they be bored to death in these trials. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. The average trial lawyer is boring. They ain't me, honey. They are not full of life. They are boring. Okay. And so, like, you know, you like, hey, go ahead and be bored to pieces while the prosecution up there. I don't want you to pay attention to nothing they got to say anyway. I'm gonna keep you awake. Okay. We gonna do our thing. We gonna move through it, you know, quickly. But also I just understand that these are people. If they are distracted, right? So you don't want that. You have to think about all these things. And so I could have seen like a reason to have like a multiracial team for sure in that courtroom. I'm not saying that there wasn't. I only know that Toby is Anglo, and I know some people are asking questions about that. Stevie, did you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Congresswoman, and everyone else. Good to see everyone. I actually followed this case at the very beginning when he was out on bail. Y'all know I'm very passionate about bail. And I remember how people were treating the Black Republican female judge who gave him bail.
Yes.
She got death threats.
Yes.
So, and I say that to say that I believe that we are going through a period of reconstruction. I believe that Obama's presidency was the Civil War, and him winning twice, you know, that was it. And, you know, Trump is a part of this reconstruction.
Are you dumb? How's she talking about Obama? It's hard. Yeah. Can y'all just deal with the case? Matter of fact, I'm not gonna listen to nothing else she said after that. She's probably complete non-FBA. I'm passing you totally. Yeah, that was Obama. Are you dumb?
This is going to be one of their flat actual.
Listen, nothing you gotta
by the
say.
time you started to get down to like the judicial level. But we know even the other statewide, like people legitimately, like they were done. After the top two races, the Republicans were beating the Democrats. So I just want y'all to know, like Democrats outvoted Republicans theoretically. But people literally showed up to vote and voted for Democrats at the top, only for the top two races. And then after that, seats like state house, state senate.
Yeah, how did we get to a political discussion? Nobody care about y'all Democrats, man. Get out of here.
They're the ones
searching for it.
Yeah, let me get past the Democrat stuff, man.
Like what? Like what are you talking
about? Ain't nobody voting for y'all. Knock it off.
About like, and then you gonna tell me as a Black woman what ain't racist? Are you serious, right?
Yeah, they are serious, because as a Black woman, that says absolutely nothing. You're part of a category that's got 1 billion people in there, and we don't know who the hell you are. When you say you're a Black woman, that means absolutely nothing. What does that mean? What country you from? What language you speak? You dig? What's your culture? That meant you just said nothing. Okay. So I think we're done with these folks right here. I think they moved past the Carmelo case. That they're going into trying to sell you to the Democratic Party. All right, let's get out of there.
Illegal immigrant commercial truck.
And y'all already know that ain't happening. So this is why. I mean, we talking about Carmelo's case. It got nothing to do with Republican versus Democrat, but they are quick to try to make it go that way. All right, yeah, that's me trying to learn some Indian language here. I'm a complete nerd. Study Greek, study Spanish, and now I'm like, let me start learn some Gujarati. Gujarati. When I get bored, I just want to just learn something new. So this is Greek, Spanish, English, and now Gujarati, because this is supposed to be tough. All right, so let me get these folks up out of here, man. I played this guy already, this nut, but I try to give all sides. I played Jason Black already. And I try to look for lawyers only. Let's take a little commercial break.
One of the sticking issues for Americans right now, and some of it has to do with civil rights and some of the things that they're touching, is the cost of housing. And the Trump administration is making housing central issue in his affordability push. Housing and Urban Development Secretary Scott Turner is leading that charge. The secretary has honed in on a severe problem for Americans who are seeking help and affordable housing. It's a loophole that gives families with illegal immigrants federal housing that could go to U.S. citizens. It doesn't. Secretary Turner says he will close that loophole and free up HUD funding to help American families in need. And according to HUD data, just to give you an example, nearly 200,000 tenants have not proven they qualify for the government assistance that they are getting. And the point that you'll hear the secretary make is they're not even asked to qualify whether or not they're U.S. citizens in this country. They don't have to show anything. They just show up with their relatives and on the sneak and fraud stay in that housing that American citizens should get. And there are some 24,000 illegals, or fraudsters, as I call them, taking up thousands of homes. In focus with me now, Scott Turner, Housing and Urban Development Secretary. Great to see you. So first of all, you're rolling this out. Talk to me about the loophole.
Well, great to be with you here. So this is a new proposed rule from HUD when you talk about the mixed status loophole. During the Biden administration, tens of millions of illegal aliens came across our borders unchecked, unvetted, and because of that, it put a great strain on our housing market, made the costs go up. American taxpayer dollars are meant to be for American people only. We prioritize under President Trump American people, and so when you have illegals that are living inside of HUD-funded housing, they're taking homes from the American people that actually need them and that are here legally. And so what we did, we put out this new proposed rule to close this loophole down, said, listen, you have to show verification that you are an American citizen if you want to live in HUD-funded housing. The mixed status came because others came and said, well, we have one, quote unquote, legal person living in the home, so others will come, cousins, relatives, friends and associates.
But not legally.
But not
Right.
legally, and said, hey, I do not contend my immigration status.
Right.
And so that,
I don't know how they gaslight us. They are literally taking housing from us. We gotta fight for housing with these guys. By the way, we're being sabotaged. That's why we even need housing. We're being undermined and sabotaged. Even need housing. We wouldn't even need it if there's no such thing as systemic racism. But why would we support and condone illegals knowing this is happening? Like, again, it's the ultimate gaslight.
that's how you get the mixed status loophole. And so we closed that because American money goes to American people and American people only.
Got it. We have a lot to get to, so I'm going to get to this. HUD is also focusing on the Federal Opportunity Zones program to expand home ownership. And those zones give tax breaks for building in underdeveloped areas. Mr. Secretary, you have been visiting some of these most successful zones because you started this in President Trump's first term. And we have some of the pictures here from Idaho to North Carolina to Green Bay, Wisconsin. President Trump signed this program into law nearly a decade ago, and the administration says they've created more than 500,000 jobs, lifted more than 1 million Americans out of poverty, and the president also signed an order in March cutting red tape for even more affordable housing. Real quickly, tell me what's next in this program.
So with the working family tax cuts, the One Big Beautiful Bill, if you will, it has made opportunity zones now permanent. The first iteration was transformative. As you alluded to the stats, there are 1 million people living out of poverty, hundreds of thousands of jobs, 400,000 new housing units. So we're very excited for Opportunity Zones 2.0 to bring transformation for new job creation, new housing for the American people with an emphasis on rural development.
Now, I understand that this is bipartisan. You say that, in fact, you've been helping Democrats in their cities probably more than Republicans in terms of some of the mayors and governors you're talking to.
Well, when you think about poverty, you know, poverty doesn't have a party. Housing doesn't have a party.
Right.
When you go into these cities across America, opportunity zones are in the most distressed, under-resourced places in our country, urban, tribal, and rural. And I have not had one instance going into these cities, some that are led, most that are led by Democrat mayors. When you have poverty, you want a solution. When you have blight and dilapidated downtowns, you want a solution. And so opportunity zones are a great public-private partnership, transcending party lines, transcending politics to help the American people achieve the American dream.
All right, well, part of that covers homelessness, and the Los Angeles mayor's race has put homelessness back into the national spotlight. We should always be concentrating on it, but you know in California they're dealing with a lot of it. Spencer Pratt torched incumbent Mayor Karen Bass over her handling of the crisis. Pratt failed to advance to the runoff. However, Bass and her progressive opponent, Nithya Raman, will still have to answer for the rampant homelessness in America's second largest city. We do know it's not just California, though. We're seeing cities across the nation struggle with growing homeless populations. Cities like New York City, Chicago, and again, back to California, because there's so many of them. It's not just LA, it's San Francisco, too. Your department, Mr. Secretary, reported 750,000 homeless people in this country as of last January. That's up 27% since 2013. What's happening?
So since 2013, the Housing First model has been a failed model. Housing First has created a homelessness industrial complex. What does this mean? Warehousing poverty, warehousing homelessness. We want to have a different paradigm shift. We don't want to award people just because you have many people inside of a warehouse that are homeless. We want to have success, say, not the number of units filled, but people moving out of homelessness to self-sufficiency. Housing First is a failed model. We want to focus on transition, getting people transformed, healed, and back to a life of self-sufficiency. So we're not funding programs, we're funding people and results.
Okay, real quickly, how do you do it?
We do it step by step, and you have to make the hard decisions. You have to care about the American people, like President Trump, America first. We don't want to just warehouse people. We want to get people healed, transformed, and back to a life of self-sufficiency.
So you'll purpose money not just to the buildings, but through these transformation type programs to keep people on their way.
Exactly. You know, there's been record funding, over $4 billion for our continuum of care program, and yet there's been record homelessness. We have to switch the play. That play is not working. This is a new play. Not just permanent supportive housing, but transition housing and wraparound services.
Secretary Turner, thank you. We had a lot of breaking news today. This is critically important. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the broadcast.
What's up, Uncle D, man? Appreciate you, man.
No problem, man. No problem, brother. I need you to explain to me what criticisms you have of my take. That's what I need. Tell me why I'm off code. Go ahead. Or whatever.
Well, man,
go ahead,
it's
brother.
hard for me to criticize you, man, because you got so much more expertise, you know, on law, just period, right, than I would. I wanted your opinion on certain things regarding the case. First of all, I wanted to ask you, would you say that, because to me not being an attorney from the outside looking in, wouldn't you say, I think that, was it 35 years? I thought that was a W.
It is a W.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I thought that was a W.
You got a date, man. You got a date, dog. You eligible for parole in 17 years. You got a date. You still gonna be, he's 19 now. 17 years from now, man, he'll be like 36. You still young enough to start a family, start a career. That's a date. This boy's in there. They've been in there 45, 50 years. They have no date. They got double, triple life. You see what I'm saying? So really, yeah. I know it sounds bad to free world people. Everybody in the chat room type free world. It sounds horrible to free world people. People who have been in and out the penitentiary, who dealt with people in and out the penitentiary. Y'all like 17 years ain't nothing. I got somebody that got, you know, they did multiple drive-bys, had multiple cases. You know, they got 45, 50 years. I know it sounds bad, but you're eligible for parole after 17. no previous criminal record. He probably gonna continue his education. Hopefully, he's a model student, a model inmate. Stay out of trouble. But you know, bottom line is no. I mean, it was a stiff punishment, but it could have been a lot worse. It could have been a whole lot worse. I think they could have gave him up to 99 years, man. You see, it could have gave him up to 99 years, man. He would have been there. But go ahead, and he wouldn't have been eligible, I guess, until after 50 years. You see, but go ahead. What other questions you have?
Also, how much? Okay, this being what I guess would be a famous or infamous case, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think that, let's say, like external things after the fact of the incident, play a part within the courtroom? For instance, like when the father came to the press conference and they kicked him out. I thought that was a perfect time to build a bridge with the father, if not for anything, then for publicity. Like,
hey man, I don't
remorse?
know. I heard about that. I think you're referring to Austin Metcalf's father went to a press conference to pray with Carmelo Anthony's family, something like that. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't even like this case, bro. I talk about a lot of different stuff, but I had yet to say anything about this case the entire time from the day, because it's just ugly. It's two children.
It's very ugly.
See, I'm not one of these people, man. These are kids. These two 17-year-old boys with their whole life ahead of them. And one of them's dead and the other one's going to the penitentiary for a long time. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't want to talk about it. I talk about a lot of racial issues, but I talk about from a historical context standpoint. I understand that these are real people hurting. One family lost their child's life, okay? And whether you think he's an asshole or whatever, okay, that was a child. That was a 17-year-old child. He was a baby. As far as I'm concerned, for some of us, that's a child. Okay, he wasn't even fully developed. On the flip side, Carmelo Anthony, another child. He's gonna lose possibly 35 years of his life. He's a child. And anybody who can't empathize with the fact that young children, young boys, young men are dying, you're not even human. You don't even deserve the title of human. I'm not gonna hate everybody because of their religion or their ethnicity or their race or what country they're from. I'm not gonna do it. These are children. You see, these are 17-year-old boys. I've been a 17-year-old boy. I got a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old boy right now. And a 10-year-old. They the same age as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what I would do if I lost my child, man. You see what I'm saying? Somebody better hold me back. You understand? You better have put him in jail. I don't want to go too far on that. He better go to jail. You see what I'm saying? You better get him up out of here. He can't be walking around these streets. You done took my baby's life. And that's not about race. That's my child. That's your child. And so, man, all these people talking bad about this boy, man, you know, he was a bully. So what? There's plenty of bullies out there. Some of y'all was bullies and assholes when y'all was kids. Some of the people out there that wish they could have stuck you up when you was picking on people in elementary school, stealing people milk trays and shit. You're horrible. You were horrible kids. Most of you kids picking on other kids, calling them names. Y'all were assholes too. And how many people have you touched on the schoolyard, pushed on the school, pushed down, took their little ball or jump rope or something? You know how kids are. You didn't get stabbed with your dumb selves. Not you, brother. I'm just speaking in general.
Yeah.
So these are children that we talk about, man. That don't just, you can't kill nobody because they goddamn push it. That's crazy, man. And anybody saying that, that's crazy, man. That's what precedent are we setting for our children? Your child is not safe if the law says that if another child or your child pushed another kid, then that child has a right to take your child's life. Would you send your child to a school or in a school district that allow that? Hell no, I wouldn't. But anyway, go ahead, brother. I ain't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, and this is my last thing, man. You know, we all have flaws. And, you know, it's okay to have flaws, but Carmelo, he made a fatal flaw, a fatal mistake. And I know you big on self-defense, you know, and just on some man stuff, man. And I just wish I've been in the position. I've been in all white towns, right?
Yeah.
With some good white people and some bad white people. That's life, right? We're young men, we're young boys, right? All they had to do, all you could have done, if you don't really want to walk away and you on your pride, then man, just fight. They
Yeah,
could have just fought.
they would have, man.
They
Look,
could
man,
have
I done
knuckled
had
up.
some,
We would have never
bro,
heard about this.
bro. I done had some fights with some people, man, and we be friends after that.
Be partners. That's
I
my
mean,
partner.
you know, it's some of the best people I had. I fought them every damn day, and then we end up being friends. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how men handle
That's what men
You
do.
don't pull your knife out and stab somebody, man. You know, it's about emotional control. And for the past 60 years, we've had a lot of very emotional young black men. And see, here's the situation. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna move on to the next person. Had Carmelo Anthony stabbed Antoine Jenkins, this wouldn't even be on the news.
Oh no! If it was black on black or white on white, no one would care.
It'd have been the same old. Shout out to 99 Pro. It'd have been the same old thing. But when we look into situations like that, it's a lot of times has to do with emotional control. A lot of these young men haven't been taught to control your emotions. I'm gonna say it like this: a lot of them think like women.
Yes.
You do something to me, I'm gonna do this. A lot of them think like women, and that's what you see going on right now in the black community. You got a lot of men who are emotional like women, and when I try to speak to them logically about how it's stupid as hell to stab somebody because they push you. I don't know how he put his hands on me. He could have been spared. He could have been a lot of things, but that's not what the jury heard. And I'm just trying to point out, well, this is what the jury heard. I know what you said happened. You know, Tupac is still alive as far as YouTube. Tupac and Elvis was all them, you know what I'm saying? But what the jury heard was there's a dead body. This young man said he did it. He said the most that the other boy did was push him. Now, some people say he pushed him like a linebacker. Some people said he just pushed him. Bottom line is, it wasn't no knife, wasn't no gun. And you stabbed him to death, that's the murder charge. You going to prison. And then the jury turned right back around and gave him 35 years. It wasn't the judge that gave him 35 years. It was the jury. So the jury was actually lenient on him. They could have gave him 99. But thanks, brother. I appreciate you, Steve, man.
Brother.
Thank you so much, man.
Have a good one, man.
What is your criticism? Thank you for joining us. Please join in and give us your criticism.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sperling. So I've been following this case as much as I could, and I get where us Black folks are coming from. Like, wait a minute, I see this disproportion of cases that are similar, and it doesn't add up. And I understand where you're coming from. You need to focus on this case, not other cases. But there was a case down in Texas, not that far from Carmelo Anthony's situation, where the dude poked up the other guy up in the bathroom a few times, and he got 10 years, and I think he's getting out. You know, so
I don't know anything about that case. I only want to focus on Carmelo Anthony's case and the facts of this case, because that's the only one that I discussed on Willie.
Yes, Mr. Sperling.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Okay, so let's just talk. So, the mistake from the first get-go. First, I thought the judge not having cameras in the courtroom, I thought that was a good idea. To come to think about it now, that was not a good idea because it led it up to interpretation. And some of the reports that were coming out was Carmelo wasn't running that day; he was actually helping, and he didn't have a tent. The blue tarp is what they're pointing to is what was available to him, and it was reported that that he saw a friend in the tent, and he came over, and it was raining, so it was everybody knows the weather was not good, so. And also he had a 2 or 3 inch knife. Well, we all know he uses that for, some people use it for tools, like, cleaning your cleats. When you watch his demeanor, the way he presents himself, he doesn't strike me as a kid who causes trouble. I think what happened was he was provoked. How he got provoked, we don't know, because most of the people were inconsistent on the stand, as it came out to report that what they were saying on trial wasn't what they were saying in the police report. And so I think the brother got railroaded because his defense attorney did not challenge the witnesses. Like, are you a professional? Where do you come to this conclusion where it's murder? How do you come to that conclusion? You know, so the defense attorney didn't do anything. He let that boy get railroaded. And we're seeing that. It is up to the defense attorney's job to provide the best defense for your client. Even they didn't give the Gibson Go money. That money came straight from their own pocket. So people going around saying, oh, they're using the money for Gibson Go, buying Cadillacs. They never got the money. And I donated. So this shows you, like, man, this is a really injustice. You know, now there's a video supposed to be out there. Where's the video? That's all I care about. Where's the video? There's a venue that should have been changed if it was a conflict of interest. The person speaking for the Carmelo Anthony, the ex guy, I don't know his, he has a checkered past. So when you're defending your client, especially a Black client, you want to make sure everything is squeaky clean on their side, and that's not what they did. I think they took the Carmelo Anthony's money. The defense attorney knew each other, which is confirmed, and he didn't want to ruffle any feathers, and he gave him a rinky-dink defense. And I just think this is a tragedy. I don't think this kid was looking for a fight. I think there was a lot more going on with that tent than what people want to be honest with themselves. You don't go up and say, touch me, see what happens. You know what leads up to that. That means you've been going at me for a minute for me to say that. And I think people are missing the mark. Also on the bleachers, people say, oh, you could have done the fisticuffs. You're not fisticuffing on the bleachers. That's very dangerous, especially in the weather. You can fall and break your neck. So I don't know how the knife got shoved into his chest like that. Some people report say he had him in a headlock. Some people say he had him up in like a linebacker, you know. So I think that they have a good grounds of appeal, and I wish them the best.
So as a non-defensive attorney, the first question I'm gonna ask this guy, I'm just a good debater naturally, organically. The first question I'm gonna ask this guy is like, where are you getting these resources from? The headlock, this, that. Hey, yo, can you refer to me where you got that from? And just like the guy from last night, he ain't gonna be able to do it. So random trolls, random gaslighting Russian bots are saying things, and because you want to believe it, you take it and you bring it to FBA News and Updates. You bring it to Unbiased Ron. Are you dumb? Do you know what I'm gonna do to you? You dig? I am that wild pit bull that you don't know, but you want to feed it a handful of French fries when it started. It's gonna eat your hand and the French fries. That's who I am with misinformation, with rumors. Don't you dare come to my podcast. I mean, at least humble yourself and ask me to fact check it. But don't you dare come to my podcast with rumors. You will get cooked. All right? Every time.
And I want to know what your thoughts on Mrs. Sperling.
Well, let's start with the facts that we know that were reported to the police officers by Carmelo Anthony. How about that? Does that sound like a good place to start?
Yes, sir. I'm familiar with that area too.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually pull up the police report, because there seems to be a lot of information out there about what was said, who said what to who and when. And so let's see what Carmelo Anthony actually said, because I think that's the most appropriate thing. Now, here's a police report. Frisco, and can everybody see it? Okay, can you all see it? All right, date 4/2/2025, 10:01 p.m. On view arrest. Arresting officer was Cortez. You had another officer who showed up. Who we talking about? We're talking about this young man here, Carmelo Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
That's a picture of him. Originally born
Yeah.
in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He is 5'9", 130 pounds. Sex, male, ethnic. It looks like that means N-word for Negro. Or actually race is black, ethnic, I don't know. I guess that's non-existent. His occupation, he's a cashier at HEB. Okay. First degree felony, murder. All right. Now let's see what he says. On 4/2/2025, at 10:01 p.m., Stately School Resource Officer E. Cortez heard over the radio dispatch a call out a stabbing call at David Cocodal Stadium. I won't read the address. FPD call notes indicated that an athlete was stabbed. The suspect was reported as being black male wearing a gray hoodie and blue sweatpants. I immediately left my office and ran across the Staley Middle School parking lot towards the southwest entrance into the stadium. As I entered the stadium, 2 high school age students informed me that the victim was on the north end of the stadium by the bleachers under a Memorial High School tent. I did not immediately, I did not identify these students. Next, I proceeded towards the north end of the stadium visitor side on foot. As I got closer to the north end, I could see the Memorial High School tent with multiple individuals under the tent. Does any of that sound like that's what we can all agree that that's true, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 2 victims pointed out, the 2 students pointed out that there was a victim, an athlete died. Okay, an athlete was dead under the memorial tent. Once I arrived onto the north side bleachers, an adult male who was on the track pointed out the suspect. So Carmelo was identified. The individual that was pointed out to me was a black male wearing a gray hooded sweater and dark colored Nike pants. The suspect at this point was on the track at the end. There was a chain link fence that separated me from the suspect. I gave the suspect instructions to keep his hand in the air. This is him talking to Carmelo Anthony. During this time, the suspect said verbally out loud, "I was protecting myself." That's his admission.
Yeah,
Carmelo said,
that.
"I was protecting myself." Okay, we get that. It should be noted that I had not questioned him about the incident when he made.
Hold on. Let me switch to my phone. I'm at my computer. Hold on. 9:02. Is it about right here? All right, let me switch to my computer. I got a phone call real quick. Come on. Really? All right, hold on. Oh man, I got so much information on my so much. I gotta clean up space on my laptop. That's why it's acting like a fool.
Him about the incident when he made that comment. In other words, the police officer said, I didn't even ask him what happened. He just said I was protecting myself. Okay, now that could be inferred as it should lead to an admission. Now let's keep listening. We'll keep reading. I asked him if he had any weapons. He said no. Well, let me go back. It should be noted that I hadn't asked him any questions about the incident when he made the comment. I asked him if he had any weapons on. He said no. I patted him down for weapons while we were walking along the fence. I did not locate any on his person. I instructed the male to continue walking along the fence, which he complied towards an area where there was an opening in the fence that led off the track. While walking him off the track, the suspect also said he put hands on me first, or he put hands on me. Okay? Let's listen to that. What didn't he not say?
Yeah, I remember he.
This is a rhetorical question. What did he not say? He didn't say he got jumped by 4 people in this police report, did he?
No, he said I was protecting myself.
No. He said no. He didn't say that. He didn't say he got jumped. He told him I was protecting myself. He told me he put his hands on me. He didn't say they put their hands on me. He said he put his hands on me. So who is he talking about? 4 people or 1 person? I'm just saying, I gotta ask you the questions, brother. Who is he talking about? 4 people or 1 person?
Well, that's that we
yes
won't know.
No. He's talking about 4 people or 1 people. 1 person.
Right.
I'm asking you the question. See, you gotta see. Here's the thing. We got to deal with the facts as they are. This is Carmelo Anthony's statement. When he states that he put his hands on me, is he talking about 1 person or multiple people?
And Mr. Sperling, I would say to this, I'm going to answer the question there. When you're saying which one is it? Because he's saying in the report,
Okay.
I'm as one
I'm
person.
gonna read it again. Let me read it again, okay? Because we have to be intellectually honest if we're gonna have a conversation.
Yeah,
it's not about what is, because I'm letting you hear what the jury heard.
All right.
Okay, we got to hear. This is a statement made contemporaneously with the arrest. These are called excited utterances. This information came in. This is what the jury heard. Okay. All right. The suspect also said he put his hands on me. Is he talking about 1 person or multiple people?
He's talking about Austin. So
he's talking about 1 person.
The champ is here.
Welcome to the broadcast. What else would you like to add to the conversation? sir.
I would like to add, first of all, thank you for bringing me up and allowing me to be a part of your broadcast.
Yes, sir.
And I would like to add fairness. And when I say I'd like to add fairness, I would like to add that I would appreciate any young person, and we're speaking young in particular, young person who's a law-abiding citizen, or if they are still in school, I appreciate them getting good grades. If they live with their parents, I'm so proud of children who do as their parents ask them to do. And I say all that because Carmelo Anthony represented that kind of young person. Didn't look for trouble, didn't start no trouble, don't have a history of trouble, just trying to be the best person he can be. And just like you or me, if we are that type of person, we can't predict what outside forces may approach us, what negative outside forces may approach us. And if it's more than one force that approaches us, now we have all kinds of decisions to make about several things coming at us that we did not expect, because our normal life is plain and simple, doing the next right thing for the next right reason. And if I am presented with what I feel an insurmountable force trying to jeopardize my life, I, as a person who doesn't do that and just trying to do the right thing, I should defend my life. I should be able to defend my life against any threat. And what Carmelo Anthony did was just that. Now, the jury found him guilty. Now, I do not know if the jury saw the full video, because I have reports of the full video showing that several people, not just the Anthonys, the two brothers, but the two brothers and several other peoples approached him, and in the scuffle, it was obvious that they were assaulting him.
Hold on, what color were the other people?
I'm not going to get into, I'm just going to say people. So anything extra, we're going to try to dismiss right now.
How long is the video?
Okay. When this initially happened,
and just for the audience to understand, he's describing a video that he says has surfaced where there were multiple people who you're saying the video that was described to you. So have you actually seen this video, multiple people attacking Carmelo Anthony? Have you seen the video?
Unfortunately, I have not seen the video, but there's critical evidence of those who have seen it. At least 17 people have seen it when they were allowed to see it. They were given the option. They were given the option to watch the 11-minute long video, which was actually the video that should have been seen by everyone.
So the 11-minute video,
and then the 3-minute. And there was the 3-minute video with the close-up, and you couldn't really see. That's the one that people were saying was grainy, and they really couldn't tell what happened. The people who saw the 11-minute video saw everything that happened from the beginning to the end. People? Now, I don't, okay, well, I do not know, but what I do know is that the jury should have saw the 11-minute video, because if the jury...
Let me ask some questions, because you the second person to bring up this video. You said there's a 11-minute video, and it depicts multiple people attacking Carmelo Anthony. Is that correct?
Okay, that's correct, and I'm gonna ask you a question if it's correct. Is this the first time you heard of this? Is this the first time you heard of this?
Let me ask some more questions, and then I'll
okay, bro. Let's be fair.
The only reason I'm
let's be fair, bro. Let's be fair. Can you please ask somebody one question?
I've never heard the video until after the conviction. Matter of fact, I don't even know who has this video. I don't even know if the video exists. So I'm simply asking you, who are the people who said this video exists? What are their names? How long is the video, which you answered, and who is depicted in the video attacking Carmelo Anthony?
Okay, there was a broadcast by I'm not sure if you're familiar with the this screamer. It's Q Butter, and there's also they are, I believe they are partners. There's one called Taz, and he interviewed, I forgot the entire title of the person. And on that show, he had a particular personality who deeply investigated.
What's the person's name?
His name was Freezy. And
what's his real name? Because his name, we can get that, and that could help with the appeal. And we have
those names
to a video that exonerates Carmelo Anthony. Then we need his name, and we need, and that will help us get the video. At that point,
the names of the people who saw the video, the school was allowing people to sign up to see the video last year when this thing happened. So if you want to get the names of the people who saw the 11-minute video, they have it. It's available. There is information on the people because they had to go to procedure.
The Frisco ISD. Frisco Independent School District.
Right.
So was it a video by the school closed circuit TV?
Yes. And in that video, it showed the entire incident, and it also showed more than one of the Metcalfs assaulting Anthony. And it showed everything. So all these things and all these questions that we are talking about, the video answers every single thing. And from the testimony,
let me ask you some questions because we want to kind of. Now, there were multiple witnesses that testified at the trial, both for the defendant and the prosecution. None of them testified that multiple people attacked Carmelo Anthony. How do you explain that?
And, it's called perjury. And it's called perjury because if there is a video that contradicts everything that they were said, that means that those young people's lives were put in danger. And we in the Black community who sees this for what it really is, we realize that Anthony did not get a fair trial. Starting from the clerk of court.
You're saying that all 13 of these people perjured themselves and didn't.
I don't have all 13. I don't have all 13 of their statements. I do not know.
These are the eyewitnesses. So you're saying all of the eyewitnesses didn't testify honestly on after being sworn in. That's what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. And to be clear, I do not know what everyone testified to. What I do know that I haven't heard any of those witnesses saying what I'm saying that's on the video.
Yeah, none of the witnesses said that Carmelo Anthony was jumped by 4 people or multiple people. Nobody testified to that. Carmelo Anthony,
now
let me finish. Carmelo Anthony didn't even say that in the initial police report when he was arrested. He did say, I did it. He did say, I did it though, but he didn't. He said he touched me. He didn't say they touched me. He didn't say they jumped me. So how do you explain that?
I haven't heard or seen any transcript of what he confessed to. I don't know what questions were asked him. I don't know if the questions were asked him.
I put the police report up earlier where he actually made those statements, and they're in the police report. And he specifically said, it's not alleged, I did it. And he said, he touched me first. He never said they touched me. He never said they jumped me. He never said any of that. And he wasn't asked any questions. He admitted that on his own volition. So why is it that Carmelo Anthony didn't say he was jumped, but we have all these people who are saying he was jumped? And then we have this video, but there's no mention by Carmelo Anthony's. He didn't say it. And none of the 13 witnesses said that he was jumped. Why is that? Why did that?
Realize the problem. Realize the problem. As I said, I didn't interview him. I do not know what method that the officer who interviewed him used. I did not know if the officer tailored his questions for for a specific answer. So I can't judge that part. What I
let me
do
say-
know is
let me
that
say
if
it
there's a
again. Let me say it
video,
again.
if
Let me-
there's a
let me say it
video,
again.
if there's a
Let me say
video
it
that's
again.
being hidden,
Hold
if
on,
there's a
brother.
video
I
that's
wanna be
being
clear.
hidden,
I want to be clear.
that's the correct
I want to be
testimony.
clear. Carmelo Anthony was not interviewed. He made these statements on his own. Nobody asked him to say this. He made them on his own. So nobody asked him these questions, and he admitted that he did it. He said it wasn't alleged, it was me. He said these on his own. So it wasn't an interview. All right. This young man said it on his own. He even at some point asked whether or not the other young boy was okay. All right. So I wanted to clarify that. Welcome to the broadcast.
What's up, Uncle
Steve.
D, man? Appreciate you, man.
No problem, man. No problem, brother. I need you to explain to me what criticisms you have of my Welcome to the broadcast, sir. What would you like to add to the conversation? Hopefully you have some criticism too.
Yeah, I just feel like you made a lot of assumptions, saying with the touch and him admitting that he murdered someone. He didn't admit to the police officer in the police report that he murdered someone, because if you look at the when they had the police body cam, and he said, I didn't. He says he okay. He asked if he was okay, so he was even aware that Austin had died. And so he wasn't admitting to the police officer that he murdered anybody. And then, as far as like the touch me, you're saying it in such a monotone way, like he touched me, like, or a cavalier way. But he may have been emotional when he said it, and maybe not picked his words the best way. But he just stabbed somebody, and he's going through a lot of trauma in himself. It takes a lot to stab somebody. It's very intimate. And so a 17-year-old boy who has no history of violence and no criminal record, for him to get to a point where he would stab someone in a public place like that in the chest, he was scared. And so you're picking apart things that a 17-year-old said, but he didn't say like he shouldn't have touched me or in a cavalier way. You don't know how he said it. He could have said it in tears. And what I gather from the police officer's statement, Carmelo was in tears and he was emotional. So I think it was more dramatic. Like he should when he said he shouldn't have touched me. And so I feel like you're just taking a lot of things, just making it seem so simple. Or when you say he was sitting down and a touch shouldn't mean you get murdered. We don't know how he got touched because he didn't testify. That's a valid point. That's his defense. That's on his defense. But from what I gathered from a couple people, they said that he was pushed back, and then someone said he lifted him up. And so we don't know what really happened in that tent. But for this to go down like it did, a lot more than a touch happened.
Okay. So are you saying that Carmelo Anthony didn't murder Metcalf?
As far as I know, it was self-defense. So
no. That's not what I'm asking.
He died due to
Did Carmelo Anthony plunge a knife in Austin Metcalf's chest and he bled to death? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. When you kill another person, is that called murder?
Depends.
So is your opinion? No.
It depends. It depends.
I'll let you talk, brother. I'll let you talk. You got to answer the questions. If we're going to get there, we got to get there together. So you're saying there's a difference between murder and killing?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Murder is if you kill someone on accident with their car, like you hit and kill a kid in the crosswalk on accident, you kill somebody. You didn't murder them.
Okay. So
now, if I go stalk my neighbor and stab her in the throat, I murdered her.
Let's stop. Are you saying that Carmelo Anthony accidentally killed Austin.
So as you can see, family, he got the guy. He got him. He knows he got him. And that's why I say this is tether energy. Okay? No matter who you claim you are, your lineage, this is tether energy. You're lying, you're babbling, and you won't stand on truth. That's white tea supremacy and tether energy. That's what it is. Instead of being honest, like, okay, yeah, it is murder. Because he's asking him, he got him. He's like, yo, first of all, you gotta humble yourself. You're talking to a defensive attorney. I will not be that bold to come on a live stream, even though I know what I know. But I'm talking to a PhD. I'm gonna have a sense of humility. I don't care if it's Texas, if it's Teddy Ruxpin. I'm gonna have a sense of humility when I'm talking to these guys. And he's talking to a defensive lawyer about crime, charges, indictment, verdicts. He don't know what he's talking about, and the defense attorney is holding him to that. Like, he knows he doesn't know. The average layman, myself, do not know what they know. The hell, man, they 10 years, 14 years of school. They gonna know more than us. But can't humble yourself like one of them, the ops.
Metcalf, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
How do you know this information?
That's based off of the information I have.
No. How do you know this information? Because my understanding is that Carmelo Anthony never took the stand.
Got you. Based off of the information that I have,
from who? Because I could just
from the attorneys, from the transcripts,
what transcripts from where?
His trial.
So you have the transcripts.
Whatever.
Court reporter put together. That's what you have already.
No. But whatever court team put together, the reports.
Slow down.
We have access to.
Hold on, brother. Slow down. Because the appeal, the appellate, they haven't even paid for the appeal yet, so the transcripts wouldn't be.
Well, I meant what we got from reporters.
You can't cut me off. Gotta let you talk. And now I'm going to say this, and then you can speak. So we don't have the official transcripts from the court. So when you say transcripts, what I'm asking you, let me finish, sir. Where did you get this information from that you referred to as transcripts?
From the different reporters from Court TV. I've been following it, and I believe his name is Cody. So I've been following his notes. So you got
hearsay. This is hearsay. This is not acceptable.
That's all you have. You have nothing more than what I have.
This is not what the jury heard. Okay.
You don't know.
I'm going to tell you what the jury heard, sir.
You have hearsay too, so don't act like you have some kind of authority. You don't. We got the same information.
Sir, no. The jury heard 20 witnesses from the prosecutor. They heard 4 witnesses from the defendant. And based on that testimony, they determined that Carmelo Anthony was guilty of murder. That's what they determined. Okay?
Okay.
You weren't there. I wasn't there. All I'm simply trying to do is explain to you why they arrived at the murder conviction.
You don't know why they arrived at anything. Like, it could be all kind of, those people, they all know each other. Those people have to live in that county. And so
do you have any proof?
It could have been intimidation. It could have been anything. We don't know.
Sir, do you have proof that all these people know each other?
And you don't have proof that they don't.
Sir, you made the accusation that they know each other.
You don't know. What I'm saying is we got the same amount of information, and you make a lot of assumptions. You don't have any authority.
Sir, I don't have to prove the negative. All I'm asking you is to answer the question that you presented. You said all of them know each other, and I want the proof that they know each other. That would be great grounds for appeal.
And you don't have proof that they don't.
No, I'm asking you, sir. I'm asking you, do you have proof that all of the people know each other? The jury, are you saying the jury knows? They knew each other?
I'm saying that they're all in the same small place, and something this racially provoking could cause a lot of problems for a lot of people if they got out of line. And so we got to call a thing a thing.
I'm going to ask you again, brother. Do you have proof that all these people, the jury, they all know each other? Yes or no?
I'm talking about the community. It's not. I'm talking as a whole, the community.
Okay. Well, let's try it like this. So you're saying the community wherein Carmelo Anthony lives, they all know each other. Everybody knows everybody.
Pretty much.
So did Austin Metcalf know Carmelo?
So I'm not saying like every
yes or no
every single person. I'm saying like it's 1 degree, 2 degrees separate.
You're a
no.
Respect.
This is time wasting tether babble.
Sir.
Respectfully, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. You're doing.
No, I don't.
No. You know what I'm saying.
Got it.
Are you dumb? You stupid motherfucker. Are you dumb?
Are you dumb? Are you dumb?
Bruh. Oh my God. Oh my God. Bruh.
Put you on mute.
1 degree separation, 2 degree separation is a small town. And to go against the grain will cost you.
Texas is not a small town. Now let me go back to you said everybody knows each other, but when I asked you the question whether or not Carmelo Anthony knew Austin Metcalf, you didn't respond.
What I'm saying, it's not a big. They've had matches together. People know of each other. It's not rocket science. You know what I'm saying? It's a small town. 1 degree, 2 degrees separation. And so if somebody got out of the line, it ain't gonna take long for it to get around town. Who's gonna get to grain?
Let's entertain that line of reasoning. They all know each other. Does that erase the dead body?
No, the boy's dead. But from some of the teammates.
Let it go back. Can we agree that that Carmelo Anthony stabbed Austin Metcalf?
Absolutely. R.I.P. Metcalf.
Okay. So we agree that Carmelo and that stabbing was resulted in that Austin Metcalf's death, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think that Carmelo Anthony should be held responsible for that?
From what I understand, it's self-defense. No.
Okay,
let me. No, you're cutting me off. Let me answer you.
All right, you saying it's self-defense. Please explain to me why you believe it's self-defense.
I believe it's self-defense because it was 2 of them. Carmelo Anthony, they say was $130, like 5'8", something like that. These dudes are like 6 foot, 215, and it was twins. And the way and he was sitting down, they walked over to that man and they were standing over him. And they were aggressive with him. And so absolutely, they put his hands on him. Austin pushed him. And we don't know to what degree, but it was enough to where that 17-year-old boy felt like he had to stab that boy to get him up off of him. And it was some people say that's not the same kind of force. Well, no, I feel like Carmelo, he evened the playing field. He had 2 dudes that were way bigger than him in his face, and pushed him, according to some of the prosecutors on witness, picked him up as if it was a football drill. So yeah, it was definitely self-defense.
Just for the folks, these are my 2 sons here. At the time, they were 15 years old and 14 years old, and they were about 140 pounds each. But go ahead, keep talking, brother. Go ahead.
That has nothing to do with anything.
No, I'm just letting the video play. Please continue telling us.
No, I mean, why do we have to see? Why do we have to see your sons?
Because it's my show.
I mean, but I'm just saying, I'm asking the question.
Yeah,
why?
Because
you said we didn't bring up any other cases, and we're talking about the facts. But now, how convenient you can pull up a video of your kids that have nothing to do with anything. You have a weird bias, bro.
Okay, here's the thing. The whole point is that they're saying that Carmelo Anthony should have been afraid because the other boys were bigger than him, because he was only 14 or 15. And I'm pointing out to you all that 14 or 15 years old, and my son is 13 on this right here, and he's bench pressing 205 pounds, and he was only about 150 pounds at that point. So what I'm saying is size doesn't matter, okay? That's my whole point. and the jury felt the same way. So here's another thing.
No.
Obviously they did. They convicted him, didn't they?
Bro, size can matter. Good that your sons took karate.
No, it's not good. It's part of manhood training, as far as I'm concerned.
There's nothing to do.
It's one of the things that I think is very important because conflict happens. And you don't want your child to over-respond. This is me, by the way, in a match. You don't want your children to act emotional because they've never had to deal with conflict. They've never had to be in a fight. That's why you should train your boys to control their emotions, practice self-control. You should also train your sons to be able to deal with physical violence. This is necessary. Part of the issue that we have in the Black community is that we maintain our boy children. We don't actually raise them with the things necessary for manhood. That's part of the problem. Now, this is my son fighting a grown man who's a professional MMA fighter. That's my son in the black. At that point, he was 15 years old, and he beat him. So I don't want to hear about, oh, he was afraid because there was multiple people. He was afraid because they were bigger than him. That's not what I want to hear, and I don't think the jury went for that either. Okay, I'm just telling you what the jury saw. Okay, you might not agree. Let me turn you back on.
Here,
go ahead. I'll turn you back on. I'm just telling you what the jury said.
I mean, it's very funny that you mute because you overtalk constantly, and you just
because it's my show. I can keep over talking you, brother. And I let you talk for the first 5 minutes. You can't over talk me on my broadcast. And if you're not going to answer the questions genuinely and be honest, if I ask you a yes or no question, nobody can hear you. You're just talking, brother. Go ahead and talk. Go ahead. Let's hear it.
I'm answering genuinely. It's just not. I'm just not going along. I'm just not letting you punk me.
Go ahead and talk. Go ahead.
Again, your kids learning MMA has nothing to do with Carmelo's lifestyle and the way you raise your kids.
Clearly, that's the problem.
And just so you know,
and that's the problem.
If your kids had that kind of training and the other kid didn't have that training and your kid made a mistake and hit the other dude in the head,
no, I train my children to walk away.
If he was defending, if he felt like he needed to defend himself, no, you let me talk. Let me talk. Let me talk. You can't handle it. You can't handle the heat.
35 years,
buddy. You can't handle the heat. You're gonna who's over talking who?
Who's winning this argument? Who do you think a parent is going to listen to? You or me?
Hopefully not you.
No, hopefully not you. Because you're giving them bad advice. It's an emotional.
Sir, I don't know your track record. I just see.
I'm a lawyer and I've been practicing law 26 years.
Only thing I got from you that you know how to manipulate, and you're not even good at it. You're a master manipulator. You change the rules, but in the court of law, you're not allowed to change the.
Does not mean they're wrong. There's a young black boy sitting in prison who's going to be there at least 17 years before he gets an opportunity to come up for parole. And everybody in the black community wants to blame me for pointing out what the jury said and why they did what they did. You got your black.
You don't know why they did anything. You made a lot of assumptions. You had the same amount of information.
Black behind, but wanted to run up next to them white folks and live in their communities, and then you wanted to go out there and act like you could just do anything, and they're already looking at you sideways. You can't see that little boy, you gonna tell your children that they can get away with what white boys get away with? Is that what you're gonna tell your children in this country that we live in? Is that what you're gonna tell your children?
I ain't telling
what I would tell mine.
Oh, you answering your own question, huh?
Absolutely right. That's not what I'm gonna tell mine.
You answer your own question. I mean, who are you teaching to? Are you actually trying to explain it to the audience, or are you just hearing yourself talk?
You can keep giving the bad advice.
I'm not buying what you're selling, brother. And it's kind of sus to me. It seems like you're auditioning.
There is a lot of.
It seems like you're auditioning for a master, bro.
And have lost their and end up incarcerated because they responded emotionally. And that's what we saw happen to Carmelo Anthony. He took it too far. It's a lot of black boys back in the day. You step on somebody's shoes and they shoot you. Overreacting, emotional control. This is the issue that we're dealing with. Now, I'm not saying that little white Austin Metcalf wasn't an asshole. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you have to comport yourself in a way in which you stay your black behind out of jail in the grave.
That's what I'm trying to explain to folk. Now, I can talk to you about the law. I can explain to you what the jury did, but since we can't have that conversation, let's just have some basic common sense. If somebody pushes you, you can't kill them. If somebody pushes you, you can't stab them. You can't shoot them. You can't hit them upside the head with a bat. Only a goddamn fool would advise children that that's acceptable. How many children get pushed on a schoolyard every day? Are we gonna tell our children that if somebody pushes you, you can kill them because your ass is scared?
Well, we both can agree that the schoolyard ain't what it used to be. Kids got guns.
Look, man, this is the suburbs we talking about, man. We're not talking about
where all the mass shootings happen. What are you talking about? People trying to when you gonna let somebody else talk? You get to hear yourself every day, bro. You hear yourself every day. You say you wanted a conversation and you can't handle it. You don't have the tools.
You are representative of the wrong direction that the Black community has been headed in for the past 60 years. It's emotionalism. You cannot stab somebody because they push you, or you will go to jail for 35 years. Is that clear? Has that message been sent? If you stab somebody because they push you, you will go to prison for 35 years.
Maybe if you're a little Black boy, but
yeah.
For that boy, for someone who has never got in trouble their whole you know how conversation work. You have to go back and forth.
You are making up facts. Oh, well, they said this, that.
You are making up facts. You assume you are making up facts. No, I called you out on your stuff, and you can't handle it.
The one that people want to yell at. They want me to yell at you.
No, go ahead. No, I called you out. You were talking like you had some kind of authority, and we got the same information. You don't know anymore.
I know the law, and I've been a lawyer for 26 years.
That's debatable.
It's debatable.
And just because you're an attorney doesn't make you a good attorney. Look at his defense team. You might be at the bottom of the heap. So what do we know about you?
I am a Hall of Fame attorney. I've been inducted into the Hall of Fame, which means the lawyers think I'm an excellent lawyer. Yes, Southern University, 2024. It's on my page for everybody to see. How about that? Yeah. Anyway. You got anything else you want to say?
Just that we got.
All right. Thank him. I'd like to thank Sam Trail. That was invigorating. I appreciate him. Anybody else who wants to come on in. I appreciate it. But again, unfortunately, sometimes you can't. They want to yell. Let's yell. You see what I mean? I can yell at you all day. You can follow whoever's advice you want to follow. Okay, do that. But my suggestion to everybody in here who's listening to me, okay, don't stab somebody because they push you. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Don't stab anybody because they push you, because you're going to go to jail for 35 years. You can listen to whoever you want. You can make up whatever excuses you want about why. But if you admit that you stab somebody, you probably going to go to prison, especially if you're in Texas, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, wherever. Okay, and they have the death penalty down here. But anybody else who wants to come in, you're welcome to come in. The link is in the chat room. I enjoyed that. Shout out to the young brother. I appreciate yelling at him. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, let's go ahead and keep doing it. Look, y'all welcome to come in. If you want to talk logically, we can talk logic. If you want to yell, I'll yell at you. We can yell at each other. It's fine. It's great YouTube drama, I guess. But bottom line is, I think we all can agree that when we talk to our children, especially our boy children, we have to explain to them that they have to control themselves, because if they don't control themselves, they're going to get punished. And they probably more likely than not are not going to get the benefit of the doubt. Welcome to the broadcast. What else would you like to add to the conversation, sir?
I would like to add, first of all, thank you for bringing me up and allowing me to be a part of your broadcast.
Yes, sir.
And I would like to add fairness. And when I say I'd like to add fairness, I would like to add that I would appreciate
same as saying you have to that the sentence feels fair to you. It's not the same as saying that the system treats black defendants equally. I didn't say that. It means we're mature enough to separate different questions. First, was the verdict legally explainable? Second, was the sentence morally excessive? Third, does race affect how people see the case? Those are three different conversations. And tonight, we can have all three, but we're not going to collapse them into one emotional argument and pretend that's legal analysis. So tonight, I'm opening up the call-in line. Again, as I said, the link is in the chat room. It's right there. I'm not going to bite you. I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to let you talk. Join the conversation. Come on in. And you don't necessarily have to be a critic. I'd love to hear what you all have to say. The link is in the chat room right now. There it is. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid now. If you agree with me, you can listen. If you disagree, you can listen, but I would prefer you call in. If you said I was wrong, call in. If you said Willie D exposed me, call in. Shout out to my man, Willie D. If you said I didn't know what I was talking about, call in. If you said I was tap dancing for the prosecution, call in. Somebody type call in. If you said I betrayed the black community, call in. If you said I'm off code, call in. Somebody type off code. But see, well, here's the thing. When you call in, bring the facts, bring the law, bring a real argument. Because tonight we're going to we're not doing a comment section. You need to have courage. We're not going to do drive-by criticism. We're not doing. I got something to say, but I don't want to be challenged. Show your face. And when you call in, I want to see your face. No hiding. We're going live. Now, let me explain something else before we dig into this too deep. Because this is why I can give an unbiased opinion on this case. Number one, criminal law is basic law material. Somebody type basic. Okay? It's like that girl with no weave, no lashes, no lipstick. It's very basic. 5'4", 145 pounds, very basic. Okay, shopped at Forever 21. You know what I'm talking about, basic. Criminal law is probably one of the most basic areas of law that they teach. They teach it in law school, first year. This isn't some mysterious area of law that only 5 people in the country understand. This is basic first year law school information. Cam up. Now, the area of law that I practice, complex civil litigation, personal injury, class actions, federal litigation. You don't really learn that in law school. You got to learn that out in the world. You learn that by actually practicing. You learn that by being in the trenches. You learn that by dealing with insurance companies, federal courts, experts, discovery, motion, judges, mediations, real litigation strategy.
Okay, let me just say, Keshawn, can't even see her damn name. Keshawn, whoever that is, boy, girls, they're just trolling. They're not sincere. They don't want no answers. They don't want no answers. They have no real legitimate questions. They're not even in the chat right now. I asked Keshawn to click the link. They didn't do it. They left. So that's a troll. But songwriter, Sonny, I want you to click the link, my guy. You guys been supporting, coming through for years. Never, ever, ever tapped in with your boy. I find that interesting. At the very least, suspicious. Tap in, man. Especially if you feel a lawyer, a ride or die lawyer is a saving face. I find that offensive. So I'm like, yo, tap in, click the link, and justify it. Let's have a talk. You know what I mean? Some of y'all, I don't know what y'all are. Unless y'all tap in with me, I can't confirm none of y'all. Y'all might be straight a black Brit. Y'all might be somebody from Africa. I have never heard your voice. I never heard your accent.
So I don't know who y'all are until y'all call in. Then I could properly confirm, okay, this is an FBA for sure, for sure. But folks don't tap in. If I never heard your voice, I can't confirm you. Okay? Just letting that be clear.
But criminal law, self-defense, murder, manslaughter, burden of proof, reasonable belief, force versus deadly force, that's basic law school. Somebody type basic in the chat room. That's why a lawyer right out of law school can go become a prosecutor. That's why a lawyer right out of law school can go.
Yeah, Sean, but I believe you're full of shit, like most trolls. I got a link there. Would you rather to call in the phone number? You want to call in with your phone? So I got a computer link. Ty is pinned to the comment section. Let me put it in again. Let me send it to you. Here, this is the computer link. All right. I want you to click it and join and ask your question the sincere way. I don't answer questions from the chat. All right. Because there's too much trolling going on. I don't waste my time unless I know you're authentic. I don't answer no questions from the chat. Okay, so I'm gonna put the link in the chat. If you want the phone number, then I'll put the phone number. But I'm not answering no question. And nobody addressed Kashan at all. Ignore if they don't click this link or ask for a phone number, ignore Kashan. Most likely Kashan's a troll, a Russian bot.
Be a criminal defense attorney. That's why law schools let students work in criminal defense clinics. You could be a second-year law student and be defending people. That's why people can even represent themselves pro se in many criminal cases, and they do just fine. The concepts have to be understandable. That's why, and they have to be explainable. They have to be something regular people on a jury can understand. So when I talk about this, I'm not acting like I'm revealing some hidden secret. Cam up. The link is in the chat room. I see we got a couple.
I'm talking my mic off. I'm talking my mic off. I ain't about to repeat all that.
Couple of people waiting in here. I'm not acting like I'm revealing some secrets here. This is
Sean, click the link, ask for the phone number, or relieve yourself before I block you. Because right now, to me, you're trolling. All right, you're trolling. Anybody who asks a question like that, like the question you asked, and don't want to call in or click a link to ask it directly, you're trolling. Okay, and I got zero tolerance for trolls. So if you say anything else in the chat other than you're clicking the link or calling in, I'm forced to block you. I don't care for your comment. I don't care for your like. I don't care for your subscription or you sharing the video. Don't care. Don't know you. You can be deleted tomorrow. I won't give a damn. A white supremacist could delete you. I won't march for you. Okay, so click the link, ask for the phone number, or be gone.
basic law. And here's the other reason my opinion is straight up the line. I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not a criminal defense lawyer. See, a prosecutor is almost always going to look at the case through the lens of the victim and the state. Even when you see them on CNN and MSNBC and YouTube or wherever, they're often speaking from a prosecutorial mindset. They're trained to look at it the way the state can prove the case. On the other side, the criminal defense lawyers are trained to look for every reason the accused should not have been convicted. That's their job. That's why, or that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to find reasonable doubt. They're supposed to challenge the state. They're supposed to attack the evidence. They're supposed to say, here's why my client shouldn't be found guilty. But see, I don't have that problem. I'm not tired.
Shane, I blocked you. Okay, you're tethered. You did not upset anybody. We don't value tethers at all. Zero. You don't move the needle. You don't do anything for us. So I deleted you, my guy. But you can always click in and be undeleted. But right now you're deleted. You can't talk under that name ever again. So joke's on you.
To either side. I don't advocate for the prosecutor. I don't advocate for the defense. In fact, I detest the criminal practice of law. I don't want to be a criminal in criminal court. I don't want to defend criminal cases. I don't want to prosecute criminal cases. That's not my practice. It's not my lane. That's not how I feed my family. And that's exactly why I'm unbiased. I don't have a dog in that hunt. My law practice isn't dependent on me getting online and saying a guilty defendant is innocent because I'm trying to attract criminal defense clients. My law practice isn't dependent on me getting online and saying the accused person is guilty because I'm trying to protect some prosecutorial brand. Doesn't matter to my wallet what position I take in a criminal case. It doesn't matter to my bank account. It doesn't affect my ability to send my children to private school like some of these lawyers. It doesn't affect whether somebody hires me in a personal injury case, a civil rights case, or a class action or a federal case. So I can call it like I see it. You see how that works? I can give it to you raw and uncut. And that's why people get mad. Oh, you're an ambulance chaser. Yeah, that's why I don't care. I'm going to tell you the truth. It ain't my business. You get mad, but that's why they call me. Because they know I'm not trying to sell them a fantasy. I'm not trying to protect a criminal defense brand. I'm not trying to protect I'm not trying to protect a prosecutorial ban. I'm not auditioning for anybody. I'm just telling you what I see. Now, if you start asking me about personal injury cases and class action, insurance disputes and medical billing and civil litigation or other things directly connected to my practice, I might say no comment. See, why? Because what I say in public could affect an argument I need to make later in court. The jury will see me. The defense lawyers will see me and they say, well, you said this when you on CNN. And now you telling the jury you making an opposite argument, Judge. Judge, he's making an opposite argument that he made on CNN. And the last thing I want to have to do is fight myself. If I take one position on CNN or YouTube or social media, some lawyer can pull that clip later and try to use it against me. They can say, Mr. Sperler, didn't you say this back in 2026? And see, that's why prosecutors have to be careful when they appear on these public forums. That's why defense lawyers have to be careful. A defense attorney can take a prosecutor's public statement and use it in front of a jury. And a prosecutor can take a defense attorney's public statement and throw it back at them. Lawyers have to protect their future arguments. But I don't have that concern in criminal law because I don't practice criminal law. So when I look at the Carmelo Anthony case, I'm not looking at it like a prosecutor who needs to make sure I need to convict. I'm not looking at it like a defense lawyer who needs an acquittal. I'm looking at it like a lawyer who understands the law and a father who understands consequences. And that's why some people are angry. Y'all wanted me to pick a team. They wanted me to say he's black, so I'm defending him no matter what. Or that I wanted to, or they wanted me.
That's exactly what my stance. I realized, like, wait a minute. So folks not standing on business. Folks not standing on righteousness. Folks are into some gang cult stuff. It's us against them, regardless of what. I said, oh, this is what this is about. This is what this whole thing is about. Some cults, us against them. Oh, nah, I ain't signed up for that. I ain't never joined a gang in my life. And I ain't about to join no online lineage gang either. So I'll step aside and I'll rep the lineage my way, not the gang cult way. I'm going to rep the lineage my way as an autonomous lineage, Black Americans who's foundational and brilliant ancestors, brilliant in this country. We're going to stand on brilliance. We ain't going to stand on gang, size, teams. Nah, I don't do that. Y'all do that. Okay, and defend yourself. But I won't be there to do nothing for y'all. Y'all defend yourselves against the white teeth supremacists. And when they find out that y'all ain't got us on y'all sides, They're gonna be all in on y'all. You dig? Nah, we over here with it. We on truth. I don't give a damn who you are. If you're right, you're right.
Me to say the jury convicted him, so everything the state did was automatically right. I'm not doing either one of those things. I'm not picking teams. I'm telling the truth, the cold, hard truth. The truth is that self-defense is not magic language. The truth is that I was scared doesn't automatically justify deadly force. The truth is that he touched me first doesn't automatically justify pulling out a weapon.
Got him.
The truth is that no duty to retreat doesn't mean you have a license to kill. And anybody who thinks that is stupid. Somebody type stupid as hell in the chat room.
But you could call me the can man, because anybody can get it. Africans, Americans, Dominicans, Mexicans, anybody can get it.
I became the can man. Everybody can get it. Dominican, African, Haitian, Jamaican, all you can get it. I'm the damn can man.
The truth is the jury can reject self-defense if they don't believe the response matched the threat. That's not complicated. That's basic law. That's basic common sense. And see, because I don't have a dog in this hunt, I can say it plainly. Now, let's bring some people in. What's up, people? All right, we have one gentleman here. You need to cam up. I see FBA for life. Come on in. The link is in the chat room. I want to hear what you all have to say. The link is in the chat room. FBA for life. You need to cam up. Anybody else who wants to come in, go ahead and cam up. As you all see, this is my purple belt. I was just recently awarded my first purple belt, my first stripe in purple belt. For you all who don't know, part of the reason I don't accept any of those excuses that you all give me about people being scared is because, of conflict, or that he had to pull out a knife or any weapon, is because I myself practice martial arts. Now I'm gonna share a little video collage that I put together, and I'll explain a little bit of it. This is me practicing my with my boxing guy. Take a look at this. This is me. Boom, look at that. That's Uncle D getting it. Hold on a minute. We got a fella here. FBA for life, man. We'll get back to the video in a minute. FBA for life. Welcome to the broadcast, sir. Thank you for coming in here. We appreciate you. What would you like to add to the conversation, sir?
Well, I've been hearing some of the rumors that's been going around, and one was that
that's not supposed to happen. We have another person here. I'd like you to cam up.
And I get where us Black folks are coming from. Like,
let me go back. It should be noted that I hadn't asked him any questions about the incident when he made the comment. I asked him if he had any weapons on. He said no. I patted him down for weapons while we were walking along the fence. I did not locate any on his person. I instructed the male to continue walking along the fence, which he complied towards an area where there was an opening in the fence that led off the track. While walking him off the track, the suspect also said he put hands on me first, or he put hands on me. Okay? Let's listen to that. What didn't he not say?
Yeah, I remember he.
It's a rhetorical question. What did he not say? He didn't say he got jumped by 4 people in this police report, did he?
No, he said I was protecting myself.
No. He said no. He didn't say that. He didn't say he got jumped. He told him I was protecting myself. He told me he put his hands on me. He didn't say they put their hands on me. He said he put his hands on me. So who is he talking about? 4 people or 1 person? I'm just saying, I gotta ask you the questions, brother. Who is he talking about? 4 people or 1 person?
Well, that's that we
It's a
won't
yes or
know.
no. He's talking about 4 people or 1 people, 1 person.
Right.
I'm asking you the question. See, you gotta see. Here's the thing: we got to deal with the facts as they are. This is Carmelo Anthony's statement when he states that he put his hands on me. Is he talking about 1 person or multiple people?
And Mr. Sperling, I would say to this, and I'm going to answer the question there. When you're saying which one is it? Because he's saying in the report,
Okay.
I'm as one person.
I'm gonna read it again. Let me read it again, okay? Because we have to be intellectually honest if we're gonna have a conversation.
Yeah,
it's not about what is, because I'm letting you hear what the jury heard.
All right.
Okay, we got to hear. This is a statement made contemporaneously with the arrest. These are called excited utterances. This information came in. This is what the jury heard. Okay. All right. The suspect also said he put his hands on me. Is he talking about 1 person or multiple people?
He's talking about Austin. So
he's talking about 1 person. There's no statement as to who that person was yet. If he had said Austin, then the cop would have inferred that they knew each other. He didn't know him. So he said, let's just get there. I then detained the suspect in handcuffs, handcuffed behind his back, and had him sit down on the ground. Officer Ricci had arrived on the scene at the time. I conducted another pat down on his person and then searched his person after he gave me consent. No weapons were located. While the suspect sat on the ground, I advised that I had the alleged suspect. The suspect then responds that saying, "I'm not alleged, I did it." So did Carmelo Anthony confess to killing Austin at that point? It's a yes or no question.
No, because
okay, let me read it again. Let me read it again. Then the suspect responds and says, "I'm not alleged, I did it."
Yes, the alleged could be like he didn't say I killed. I said, yeah, I'm the one.
Okay, let me read it again, brother. I conducted another pat down on his person and then searched his person after he gave me consent. No weapons were located. While the suspect sat on the ground, I advised that I had the alleged suspect. This cop is talking to another cop, right? Carmelo is not even being asked any questions. The suspect, who we know now is Carmelo Anthony, then responded and says, "I'm not alleged, I did it." Is that a confession to the stabbing which led to Austin Metcalf's death?
Yes.
There we go. Next, Officer Ricci and I walked the suspect to the patrol car, which was on the north gate. As we were walking to the squad car, the suspect was emotional and said he put his hands on me. I told him not to. He never said in here that they put their hands on.
It's a 4-hour conversation. I can't play the whole thing right now, so I'm gonna give y'all about 3 minutes to tap in. If nobody wants to call in and express any opinions, then I'm gonna go to TikTok. I know that TikTok is way more aggressive. They like to hop on and talk, you dig? So TikTok is where the conversations are I guess, promoted and welcome. I got hella content I have not re-uploaded yet. So 3 minutes, nobody tapped in. I'm going to TikTok because I feel like confronting somebody. I don't want to talk today. I want to debate. You dig? I'm in that warrior spirit.
On me. He never said that he was jumped. This young man is volunteering a lot of information without being asked. A reasonable person would probably assume, a jury listening to this would probably assume that if he was jumped by 4 people, even if the 20 witnesses who testified on behalf of the prosecution didn't say it, even if the 4 witnesses who testified on behalf of Carmelo Anthony didn't say it, certainly we would think that this young man would say out of his mouth, "They jumped me, 4 people jumped me." That's not in the police report. So what we do have is a confession that he did it without being asked. We have a confession that he put his hands on me. So I guess that's the self-defense argument. So let's keep reading. I did not question the suspect about the incident while he was escorted to the patrol car. I searched his person again. So they've searched him 3 times. They're trying to find the weapon. I had him sit in the, let me finish reading, brother. I had him sit in the back seat area, driver's side of the patrol car, while the suspect was in the back seat. I noticed fresh blood on his left middle finger. I verbally acknowledged that I saw blood out loud so that it would be captured by my body-worn camera. It should also be noted that the suspect asked me, is he going to be okay? In other words, he voiced concern about Austin. For whatever reason, he voiced concern about Austin. Maybe he was sympathetic. Maybe at that point he was concerned about how serious this matter had become. I don't know. He never testified. I then identified the suspect. He provided his name, date of birth verbally, Carmelo Anthony, black male with the date of birth, and that's crossed out. I ran through the Frisco PD dispatch. Officer Jay Hannock arrived on the scene and remained with me, and the suspect at that point, Carmelo, was then checked via eSchool database. His identity was confirmed. The identifying information he proved matched the individual I had in the custody. Next, I was, and the rest of it, you can look at it online, but that's the crux of it. So, brother, here's the thing. We have a confession to a killing. Now, murder is a legal charge. The murder is a legal determination. It's not murder if it's manslaughter. You might have murder. Well, it is murder, but then there is a defense to murder called self-defense that we talked about. But we have a confession. He said he did it. And we have to start at that point. The suspect admitted to killing this other young man. That's where we start. Well, so let's go back to some of your other questions. You were concerned about, I believe you said the something about the prosecutor, the defense attorney. What was the defense attorney supposed to do after your client has confessed to the murder?
The defense attorney is, they have a difficult job when you're confessing to things.
I want you to tell me what he was supposed to do. If you tell me what words could he have used to undo that murder? And if you can, please put your, I like to get your whole face in the frame so we can be even as we talk. There we go. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, repeat the question. You said what could the defense attorney do?
What words could the defense attorney have used to undo the murder that Carmelo Anthony admitted to?
Well, the part where you read in the report, it says, is he going to be okay? That doesn't tell a person that this person was planning on murdering anybody. This tells us that, in my opinion, I assume that the adrenaline was high and tensions were high. Mm-hmm. And all it took is that one time. There was no repeated poke. It was poke. And, so when I defended myself. Yes, I'm the one who did it. That could be up for interpretation. Well, now we know what he meant by that. Afterwards.
Right there. You admitted that he murdered him. And you mentioned some things like emotions, hot blood. I get that. Okay, so now you're describing manslaughter. You're saying he was emotional. Now, in order to have manslaughter, okay, well, in order to even have, first of all, where was the indication? He said, what did he say? Did he say he hit him? He touched me.
Yeah, in the court, they describe him as a lion.
Let me get to, come on, I'll let you talk for about 5-10 minutes straight. So now we have to learn. We're going to try to learn here because there are a lot of people out here who are watching this broadcast and they're trying to pick apart this discussion. Bottom line is he murdered somebody. He admitted to murdering somebody. And the amount of force that he used a deadly weapon. Now, some people confuse it has to be a knife or a gun. But you know what's not a deadly weapon? A car. But you can kill somebody with it. A baseball bat. But you can kill somebody with it. So a deadly weapon is something, an object It's
It could
determined
be
deadly in
anything.
the manner used.
Yeah.
And if you
it could be
use
anything.
whether it's a track knife, whatever kind of knife it was, the manner in which it is used determines whether or not it rises to the level of deadly weapon. So he admitted that he murdered somebody. He admitted that he did it. And we all know that it's a knife that was involved. Now, did Carmelo Anthony ever tell the police officers that Austin Metcalf hit him with a bat or broke a bottle across his head?
No, he didn't describe
Okay,
Austin.
Stop. Your answer is no.
Mhm.
So is there any indication that any other weapon was used or any weapon was used against Carmelo Anthony before he utilized his knife?
In the report, no.
Okay, so there's no evidence in the report. Is there any evidence in this police report that says Carmelo Anthony was jumped? The
No,
police report I just read. No.
No.
So there's no justification to bring deadly force into what is basically a situation where you're touched.
No, I mean a touch. Like if you do this, that doesn't justify deadly force. Touch could mean as a person's trying to articulate what is a touch. When they were asked about this, he said it was almost like Austin had put him up into a.
Let me slow you down. Let me slow you down.
So
nobody asked Carmelo anything. He volunteered all this information.
I know I'm talking about during the trial when you said what does justify a touch? No, touch does not justify deadly force. We all can agree to that.
Okay, so let's stop there. Let's stop there. If touching does not justify deadly force, that means there is no self-defense claim and the murder conviction was accurate.
No, I don't.
No.
I'm out. Catch me on. I'll be on TikTok. FBA News and Updates. Unbiased Ron. Thank you, but I gotta close this one. I want to interact. I don't want to just play videos and just talk. I want to interact with folks, and TikTok is more interactive. I think we can all agree to that.